house in faraway Switzerland, whose famous chocolate consists mostly of Ghanaian beans. We'll be telling you more about that later on the show.
Also, there seems to be a hectic day ahead for the Appointments Committee of Parliament because they host as many as 8 minister-designates, including Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, Minister-designate for Foreign Affairs, and Sam Jat. In fact, I saw Sam George did a poster, a flyer for his meeting today. So that's all the action will be here on the AM show. You don't want to miss any of it. But to start with the AM news, please stay. Folks, welcome to the AM News. Let's start from the Majority Leader, Mahama Yariga, who says his party, the National Democratic Congress, has an overwhelming majority of seats in Parliament, such that it will be absurd for President Mahama's ministerial nominee to bribe MPs to approve ministerial nominations. Activist and lawyer Oliver Bakavomawo earlier yesterday apologized to members of Parliament's Appointment Committee over claims he made on a social media post that created the impression that nominees were being asked to pay bribes for approval. However, in response to his summons, Oliver Bakavomawo says he was taken out of context. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante tells us more.
The Appointment Committee finally had its day with activist and lawyer Oliver Bakavomawo over those social media comments. The committee members, especially on the MPP side, were furious and pressed Oliver Bakavomawo to speak himself and not to be speaking through his lawyer. In fact, as the back and forth ensued, there was this clash between a lawyer for Oliver Bakavomawo, Nana Tudadzi, an experienced politician himself, and former chief of staff under the erstwhile Rawlings administration. Here is what panned out at the committee.
We made that post but it gave a certain reason and indicated that if that statement appears or seems to have,
Council, with the greatest respect, as we sit here, very respected senior citizens of this country are engaging us. We were initially divided on this matter. Please help your client. It's not a matter of, Leonard, we respect you. You know, it's because I'm sure he knows why he chose you. You are a respected council. This issue of if, are you rendering an unqualified apology? If not, let's close this matter. Are you apologizing and are you going to pull it down and all? Let's close this matter because the speaker is of the view that we should manage this thing, and that is why we are managing. But you cannot continue. We give you the chance. 50 years at the bar. This at the back. No, Mr. Nana Tudazi.
I would have protest.
No, you can protest if you want us to have no, because I've opened the window for us to solve this matter. This is not an NDC MPP matter. No, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, with the greatest respect, I am no. We want to solve it, but this is not a matter of 10 years at the bar, 50 years at the bar.
Oliver Bakavomawo then attempted to read a prepared speech in which he tried to lay out the basis for that post. But the committee were not interested in that, except to impress on him to offer his formal apologies for those comments, which Oliver Bakavomawo obliged.
I want to begin by reiterating my utmost respect for the committee and its constitutional role and the job or task it has to vet persons to high office in this country. At no point did I accuse the chair of this committee or members of the NDC for having asked for or to be given money or to submit themselves to oral. The misinformation, as I said, was appeared on a Facebook post under one NPP Projects Bureau. In fact, there's evidence that 4 days ago when the post appeared, I commented on it as being fake. Unfortunately, I must also address the claim that it is a notorious fact that he's a member of the NDC. In fact, I must say that the victory of the NDC, now everybody says they are NDC members. But this is completely untrue. I have not been a member of the NDC in the past. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Manasseh Azure published a book, The President Ghana Never Got. This was his words in the book.
Please, are you going to render apology? We are not interested in what Manasseh has said in the past. Please.
Mr. Manasseh said, Muntaka never mentioned that the only cash that came to the appointment
Mr.
committee...
Oliver Baka Vomawa, are you going to do justification or you want to render an apology and we close this meeting?
If the committee resolves that the context of the post is irrelevant to the commission, the question here, I'm happy to proceed as the committee has directed. Now,
proceed as the committee has directed.
Mr. Chair, I am saying here clearly that my post was not intended to disparage members of the committee, and I have not intended to say that members of this committee have received or demanded bribes from various individuals. And for those reasons, I apologize.
After this apology and retraction, the committee then discharged Oliver Baka-Vomao.
Your client, having apologized, is hereby discharged.
Very grateful for the patience and tolerance.
Thank you very much for attending upon the committee and clarifying issue.
Still on the appointment committee, though, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagwin has not been enthused about how the committee is going about its work. Alban Bagwin said that it appeared the committee was not following the rules laid out for its work.
Respect is earned. Please. Appointments Committee. We have crafted rules of how Appointments Committee should conduct the business of public hearing. That is the term. I'm not too sure there's reference to those rules in what I am witnessing myself.
The committee has not started today to vet nominees, apart from hearing from Oliver Baka-Vomao. We expect that on Thursday, the committee will resume its public hearings and continue to vet. With the advertisement already outside, we expect Sabolo Kujito Blakwa, the designate for Foreign Affairs, Minister-designate for Communication, also Sam George, and other regional ministerial nominees to also appear before the vetting committee and respond to questions. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, hundreds of aggrieved parents and students besieged the office of the West African Examination Council in Kumasi, demanding the release of some results withheld over alleged malpractice in the 2024 West African Secondary School Certificate Examination, that is the WASSCE. The affected students, mostly from T.I. Ahmadiyya Senior High School, had their mathematics results withheld by WAEC, sparking widespread frustration. The aggrieved parents claimed the decision to withhold the results was unfair and unjust, insisting their children had not engaged in any form of examination malpractice. Over 2,000 affected students are unable to proceed with university admissions due to the withheld results. My colleague, Nana Boachidankoyadom, has more.
Into WAEC, an investigation had been conducted into the 2024 WASSCE examination, with preliminary findings identifying some form of examination malpractice, especially in the Ashanti region, with some schools affected, including T.I. Ahmadiyya Senior High School. Over 1,600 students have been affected with their mathematics results withheld. The parents who are aggrieved with the awards came in saying that they disagree with WAEC on their stance. Some of them shared their frustration.
It's emotionally and mentally, it's not easy. As I said, I have twins, a boy and a girl, and they both went to Amas. It's not easy to see your friends, maybe colleagues, the secondary school they went to, maybe not, but they went to a different JHS. Oh, mommy, this person has got into Legon, this person is going to Tech. You have to be dealing with their mental state and emotional state, it's not easy. You know, they might smile about it, but they are not really happy inside. So it's a difficult thing.
We are not happy about that because it's not like examination. You communicate with the word first that he's coming to write a report. Nothing in that message that they gave us. Only for them to come and they want them to write a report. The report writing too it's not that a big deal. They separated the parents and the children. According to some of the children, they intimidated them to write the reports. So why should we intimidate somebody to write a report? Is he going to confirm or is he going to deny? So from where? And I don't understand why this thing should happen.
A frustrated student from T.I.M.Edia Senior High School who has his mathematics results withheld spoke to Joy News.
What are your expectations after writing a report?
Definitely they should release our results for us. That is all what we need, because maths is not like any other subject that you expect a lot of answers. 1 + 1 is 2, so definitely you can't expect someone to go and write 3. So we are about to write a report and see what will happen.
There were numerous confrontations between the students, the parents and WAEC. According to WAEC, they would only allow the students to write the report to indicate whether there was any form of examination malpractice.
There are malpractices that goes on during the examination. Some of the malpractice that goes on during the examination, some could be caught red-handed and some may go unnoticed by inspectors. But during the marking of the papers, it is unraveled that some of the candidates were involved in malpractice, and we call it, if it is mass cheating, we call it collusion. So they colluded. And for that matter, when they report to WAEC, WAEC also take a third party to go through the scripts that they allege that they have colluded. So per their report of the third party, those that we engage them to go through, we call it scrutiny, to scrutinize the scripts. After they have done all those exercises and then they have come up with their reports, we must also come down because the investigation has not ended, it's not complete. So we must also go to the field and also ask the candidates per whatever they have seen, also ask the candidates of that problem that they have identified in their scripts. Do you get it? So if you look at it, you have the evidence. You write the report per whatever we explain to you at the spot. And that is all the exercise that we are doing, because these things, a lot of issues have cropped up saying that, oh, WAEC don't give candidates the opportunity also to express themselves whether they did it or they did not do it, because you and I were not there.
There was some form of confrontation between the parents, students and officials of WAEC here in the Ashanti region. For the parents, they want the results of the awards released or the paper cancelled for them to retake the examination. For Joy News, my name is Nana Boachi Dankwa-Yadom, Kumasi.
In other stories, there's hope for patients living with end-stage kidney disease complications in the Ashanti region and beyond, as a team of specialists and surgeons succeed in a historic journey of performing kidney transplant in Kumasi. The momentous event, led by the Kidney Specialist Center in Kumasi with a team of other local and foreign health professionals, has brought relief to some end-stage renal failure patients in the region. Emmanuel Bright-Kweku tells us more.
Right now, the kidney is hard. The surgical procedure was the first of kidney transplants to be conducted in the Ashanti region. A team of 10 medical experts comprising local and foreign professionals, including urologists, nephrologists, anesthesiologists, perioperative nurses and other supporting medical staff, embarked on a historic operation. The Hope Exchange Medical Center, located on the fringes of Santasi in Kumasi, saw the remarkable and debut surgical process under the auspices of the Kidney Specialist Center. Transplant in Ghana started in 2006 with only 4 hospitals conducting operations since its inception. Dr. Elliot Cranton-Tanom is nephrologist at the Kidney Specialist Center.
To school, and for me, to be honest, it's even long overdue. It's something that some of us had been pushing from 2016, 17. When I came back from training, we had been pushing to get this done, because from my training and all, I was like, this is something we can easily do. But of course, if it is not just you and you need all the other parties to ensure that the thing is successful, then it becomes, difficult when one person is leaking out and all. But I mean, God's time is the best. I mean, now we got to a point that, listen, I mean, we got a theater, we got the necessary staff, and then we're like, okay, to be able to build the program, instead of sending the patients out there, why don't we bring the urologists down here to also help our people to get some more hands-on experience? And the hope is that after a year, they should be able to do it themselves, for which we don't need to even invite anybody. And I'm happy to say that other countries have done it. You know, we've done it in Accra previously, and then Kumasi is also beginning to do transplant. And it is something that we hope that it's not just once off. It's something that is going to continue, because we now have a few patients who have lined for the next set of transplant that we are hoping to do. Yeah.
In Ghana, chronic kidney disease is a common health problem with over 13% of prevalence nationwide. With a population of about 31 million, Ghana has 15,400 patients with kidney failure. At many dialysis units across the country, patients with renal failure continue to join long queues to take turns on dialysis machines with hopes of getting at least someone to donate kidneys to them for a transplant.
Kolebu now currently is training a lot of nephrologists and urologists, so we believe that the numbers should change. As per some trends that I was looking at, we are getting there, but we are still far from there. But at least with each year, if we get more people passing the exam, then we'll get the numbers increasing to be able to. But we need a lot of nephrologists.
There are heightened calls for the establishment of a renal transplant program and legislation for organ harvesting in Ghana to alleviate the burden on kidney patients.
For me as a nephrologist, it's not satisfying that you just have people just on dialysis. They come and go, they come and go. Can we give them the best? Because the best is not the dialysis. The best is kidney transplantation. So we need to encourage it, because currently there are only a few people who are on dialysis, who have transplantation, and we need to increase these numbers. I mean, so that there's so the bridge being the dialysis ends well with the kidney transplantation.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Prince Kweku.
Residents of Ekwamase in the Ejuma-Koenyan Isiam district of the Central Region have heaved a sigh of relief following the renovation of their clinic by the Rotary Club of Canada. The clinic, which serves the community and surrounding areas, was in a deplorable condition, posing a threat to healthcare delivery. At the commissioning of the project, the benefactors emphasized the need to protect the medical equipment and maintain the facility to ensure sustained quality healthcare services. Here's more.
Healthcare delivery in Ekwamase in the Ejuma-Koenyan Isiam district is seeing a facelift following the renovation of the Ekwamase Health Clinic. The project, which was championed by the Rotary Club of Canada and sponsored by the Howie Foundation, is in recognition of the club's commitment to global health and community development. Addressing residents, the representative of the Regional Director of the Central Regional Health Directorate, George Fritzdoe, described the project as a symbol of hope for proper healthcare delivery in the community. He tasked community members to ensure the maintenance of the facility and assured the club of the Health Directorate's continued partnership in promoting quality healthcare delivery in the region.
The renovation of this CHIPS compound is more than just a facelift. It represents a renewed commitment to delivering quality healthcare services to the people of our community. It will enhance the working conditions of our health staff, improve patient comfort, and ensure that essential healthcare services are delivered in an environment conducive to healing and care. As you accept this facility, Nanache, I urge the health staff and our community members to take collective responsibility for its maintenance. Let us protect and preserve this valuable resource to ensure it serves the purpose for generations to come.
Reverend Father Stephen Amuajesi is the project manager for the Rotary Club of Canada in USA. While appreciating the efforts of the club and sponsors of the project, he recalled the poor state of the health facility, which needed immediate attention.
I'm so grateful that we have done it, because the dilapidated nature of the clinic was an eyesore. And I think it wasn't a facility for any meaningful health to be given. But today, it can stand tall among the health facilities in the district. I'm proud to be associated with it, And my encouragement is that they should keep it clean and make sure that delivery of health is apt and to the highest point.
Kimberly Spyro, who is the district governor nominee for Rotary District 6400 in Canada and USA, expressed excitement at the completion and acknowledged the donors of the project.
Well, we have delivered a first-class facility to this community, and I know they really appreciate it. And to demonstrate that appreciation, it's really important that they take good care of the facility, that they maintain the equipment, and that they work and deliver the care that we expect they'll be able to deliver with the renewed resources that we've provided. So we're very proud of them. We know they worked very hard before, and I have great confidence that they will be good stewards of this project.
Abigail Nkrumah's report for Joy News.
The government has temporarily suspended implementation of the 10% increase in 2025 motor insurance tariffs. A December 23, 2024 letter from the Ghana Insurance Commission to the Ghana Insurers Association announced the hike effective from February 1st. Meanwhile, insurance expert and MP for Ebuakwa South constituency, Dr. Kingsley Ajimang, who opposed the tariff hike due to inadequate consultations, has welcomed the NIC's decision to reconsider the earlier decision. He argues that, but for the minorities' vigilance, this additional tax would have been pushed down the throats of Ghanaians on the blind side, insisting that the NPP minority remains committed to safeguarding the interests of Ghanaians.
It's a plus on the minority. We want to assure the people of Ghana that regardless of our number, we'll make sure that everything that we need to do to make sure that they have a better condition of livelihood, we'll make sure they will have it. So this insurance thing would have been an albatross. I mean, I even went further and standing order 83 to put together an urgent question for the minister to come and answer, Minister of Finance to come and answer. So we are really playing the role of a check on the executive. I thank the leadership of the minority for guiding me through the parliamentary procedures. I would say that had it not been the minority, there was going to be 10% increase in the compulsory motor insurance tariff. So it means that public should continue to have confidence in the minority. And I called for a broader stakeholder engagement. This whole thing. I had a lot of calls and discussions from the industry. The government, through the regulated agency, the National Insurance Commission, cited a letter today or a directive saying that there's been a suspension. I want to believe that naturally they have yielded to the concern that I stood for and on behalf of the minority for the people of Ghana. So it will come out very clearly. And as we were discussing, to come and consult broadly, they are ready to assist them. So this shows that the minority side of parliament, the MPP minority, has some concerns at heart because we really champion this cause and the government has yielded to the cause that we champion.
That takes us into our business updates with Benjamin Akapo.
Welcome on Business. And of course, we kickstart affairs with our currency market updates. Welcome back. Now we get into the stories. And the total value of mobile money transactions witnessed some significant increments ending December 2024. Data from the Bank of Ghana showed that it had reached 3 trillion cedis. There's more in this report.
In 2023, the total value of mobile money transactions reached 1.9 trillion Ghana cedis. However, this amount jumped by more than 50% to 3 trillion cedis. The Bank of Ghana data also showed that there has been significant increase on a monthly basis when it comes to transactions done on this platform. For instance, in December 2024, the total value of mobile money transactions in that month reached 334 billion cedis compared to the 1.99 billion cedis recorded. Some industry analysts are linking it to developments in December as a result of the Christmas festivities, but report has also shown that more businesses and individuals are turning to this platform as a means of payment for several transactions.
And the founder of the Institute of Customer Service Professionals, Yvonne McCarthy, is calling for the establishment of a customer service regulatory body to ensure the prioritization of proper customer service delivery in the country. Addressing the media at the launch of the 2025 Customer Service Index report, which revealed that Ghana's customer satisfaction index dropped from 73.9% to 72% in 2024, she explained that the move would be key in making Ghana a preferred tourism destination in Africa.
For this year, we saw that transportation came tops and utilities was at the bottom. Transportation is usually amongst the lower 6 performers. Utilities, unfortunately, has always hovered around then. We would have hoped that they would have done better. Ghana scoring a 72%, which is a B, is not too good because last year was 73.9, and so it's a step down. We would want to see Ghana in A because we have an influx of people coming to Ghana every December or even throughout the year, and we shouldn't be at a B with the kind of investments that people are making. We also realize that customers will pay a bit more if you would give them the experience. So premium customers are happy to pay more if you're going to give them the experience. This year, we've also realized it's not just about having technology, but it's how well the people behind the technology are working. So this is an advice to all organizations. You can't just go and implement or innovate. You have to make sure the people that work the technology have also been trained. I've always said that we need to have a more nationalistic view when it comes to customer service. We need to start looking at it as a national project. So having a regulator would have been an amazing thing. We don't have that now. What we can do is the different regulators can start looking at the portions where they address customer service and tighten it up. Make sure that they're really implementing all the policies they've put in place. Beyond that, every organization has to make sure they're employing the right people, training them well, they have the right processes and procedures, and they are also making data-driven decisions. So employing the right people would also mean that you have people who have the right service mindset. If we do these few things, I think we'll be okay.
And now we settle for our commodities market for this morning. Thank you for enjoying our business buffet. Time now for me to hand over back to Siti Abachi.
And that does it for the AM News Bulletin on the AM show. Please stay because we get right into our news review segment. And Kwesi Kwating, former PRO for the Ministry of Education, and Dr. Kwamina Mintanyako, Member of Parliament for Cape Coast North, are joining us to review the newspapers. We're back in a bit.
Welcome back on the AM show, and it's time for the news review. I'm doing this together with Sweetie Abochi, and we also have one of our guests joining us in the studio. Kwesi Kwarteng is here. He's former PRO, Ministry of Education. Kwesi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay.
You know how we're doing. What's on your mind this month? There's so much happening. Maybe you're going to the appointment committee. I don't know. What's on your mind?
No, I mean, I've been following what is going on in the media space. I mean, largely it's been the appointment. But I mean, aside that, from here, I'll just be going to court. Now I'm in opposition.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Once I saw how you were dressed, I knew you were heading to court.
I'm in opposition. I have to go and work and make some money. So
hey, I said, okay, you're in opposition, so you have to go and work and earn some money.
Yeah, but in government I was working, but now I don't have a job in government. I have to. So I will surely have to.
Do you know whom you remind me of? Or my neighbor when they are after working with Afra. Anyway, but since you've mentioned Parliament, just a quick thought. What do you make of yesterday, especially Oliver Barker-Vormawor, and what happened from the legal perspective and everything in between?
Well, let me be forthright with the whole thing. Apparently, I didn't have the opportunity to watch because yesterday the day was packed. I mean, from TV, I also have to move to the court and later subsequently to the firm. I was assigned a job by my senior. But of course, I mean, I am aware of the statement attributed to him. I also read some social media comments. I mean, on the face value, when I saw it, I felt it was quite, I mean, it could be defamatory, unless, of course, he's able to explain the basis upon which he made that statement. I understand he went there to apologize. Maybe unless, of course, maybe I get my details into it, but I understand he went there to apologize. But I mean, I also did not take time to really follow his appearance before the appointment committee because I have my own reservations about his style.
What are those?
I am of the view. I mean, I'm unable to repeat exactly what I met him, what he said, but I've met him in two different occasions. One, he was carrying a cameraman with him at the court premises. Of course, every move that he makes, the cameraman will have to take the videos and then subsequently, I'm sure they will post it. And there was a time too, I was entering the High Court premises. Apparently, he had appeared before a judge and stepped out. And he made a comment that I just eavesdropped. I am unable to repeat here. And I lost it for him. So, I mean, even yesterday, if he was facing even the White House committee, I was not going to watch on personal principle. I just feel that he's an attention seeker. I mean, without any disrespect to him, I just felt that that was what the whole statement was just structured to do, just to get the public attention. But I mean, in terms of the merits and the demerits of it, obviously, the Constitution also guarantees free speech. Particularly if you look at Article 21 of the Constitution, it guarantees free speech. I mean, even with the media people, Article 162 of the Constitution also guarantees the independence of the media, particularly with regards to the cost of your work, making speeches. Yeah. But of course, we also have to, at every point when you are guaranteed a certain right, whether free speech, it also have to balance or tally with some level of responsibility. Now that he himself has dissociated himself with his comments, I'm not sure I'll have the right to even go into the subject matter. But, I mean, these speculations...
He stood by one of the comments.
Which one?
Is the second one that purportedly was shared, I don't know whether by an MP or an NPP group, seemed to have taken him out of context. I'm reporting what he and his lawyer, Atsodazie, said. But the first one he stood by, but said that the intent wasn't what had emerged.
So which I want the difference. You know, for me, I am privy to the fact that he said the appointment committee has been taking money. Yeah. But I mean, beyond also the legalities of it and the fact that it's coming from, I think this is not the first time this matter is also coming up.
Speaker Bagman himself, though he wasn't Speaker at the time, yes, he said this. When he was a member of Parliament, he had said something of the sort before, and it wouldn't even be only Speaker Bagman. That is not to impugn the work of Parliament, but it's to say that, like someone said yesterday, there's no smoke without fire.
Exactly.
I've seen a post by Daniel Yaudamelevo, which also suggests that if often the claim is that the appointments committee will sit and maybe after it is done with its work, some sort of consideration. You understand consideration?
Yeah, I understand.
Is given from the presidency. And Domelevo points to the fact that corruption is not just before, it can be after the act as well. So, but that is not in any way to suggest that members of parliament are doing anything.
But I
These
mean,
are just things out there. My final point, Privileges Committee. I think the Speaker himself waded into that. The Appointments Committee, per law, they were not supposed to be doing this, were they?
In terms of inviting the gentleman,
it's not in their purview.
No, I have.
It's the Privileges Committee that.
Apparently, I have not cast my mind to that. I've not had any reading to that. So maybe I'll defer commentary on that for now. Subsequently, when I have, I have more information on that, I'm sure I can speak to that.
Let's get into the newspapers then. I have the New Republic. Samira's land baroness runs to court, seeks injunction against explosive tell-it-all story. Every day, the New Republic tries to shine light on some sort of conspiracy, something that's happening. I'm just going to skip this and go to From Red to Green. Ghana's $2.8 billion debt relief boosts economic recovery. Let's start from there. It says Ghana, led by Finance Minister Dr. Kieselatu Forson, has successfully secured $2.8 billion in debt relief after all 25 members of its official creditor committee signed a memorandum of understanding for this purpose. Co-chaired by China and France, the agreement provides much needed relief to Ghana amid an International Monetary Fund program. Just for clarity, this doesn't mean we've paid off these debts. The successful completion of these agreements will be crucial in restoring fiscal. Let me skip to the part where it says the debt relief secured under the G20 Common Fund, Common Framework is expected to provide Ghana with essential fiscal breathing space to stabilize the economy, rebuild investor confidence, and implement necessary reforms. There's a story here about Oliver Bakavomawo clearing the air, denies NDC link amid bribery claims and apology. Parents storm WAEC Kumasi office over what withheld results. We know that about 2,000 of them were there demanding that the results be released so that they can continue the admission processes and make their way to the universities. These three stories for your commentary.
Oh, parents storm WAEC office in Kumasi.
Yes. So WAEC withheld some results.
Yeah.
And parents and students together stormed to the place saying that their students are stuck. You know, you need your results to be able to proceed to the university.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's also happening in Kumasi.
Maybe that'll be my first bite because I work from the
Yes.
So, I mean, yes, it's quite unfortunate. I mean, when we were there we experienced those hiccups. The practice of WAEC, even though I do not purport to be speaking for them, but of course, from my work experience, they withhold certain results that they believe that there are issues that ought to be investigated. I mean, sometimes when it comes to, on the side of the parents, to, you know, the anxiety to even see your results, particularly when your colleagues' results and other children's results are in. And the fact that mostly, I mean, these days, people are doing a lot of awaiting admissions and applications. They apply even before the results are in. So a lot of times there will be that level of jitteriness, that anxiousness. But mostly, WAEC also may have its own protocols of investigating whatever suspicions. Because if you look at those exams, more practices, we may have more practices, we may have leakages. A lot of times when there are leakages, they are able to put the stopgap. Most times they may even end up cancelling the questions. Okay. But when it comes to the more practices, an allegation of having used form, an allegation of copying, I mean, largely, if you look at also the case of Awuni and WAEC, it has also set more or less a practical and judicial precedent that at every point, you also have to give the parties an opportunity to come and explain themselves or to be heard.
That's actually what happened. They had invited them to come to the regional office. They went there and they were met with silence. So then the agitation started. We are here, you know, deal with us, let us know, clarify what the issue is, and then the altercation is.
Well, I mean, if it was before, if I was in government, I'm sure I would have been on the side of WAEC. But I mean, bottom line is that such processes also needed to be treated with a matter of urgency, particularly when you are balancing the anxiety and the jitteriness of people.
Yeah.
And so we can only call on WAEC to, as a matter of urgency, also speed up and fast track that process. Because at the end of the day, if also WAEC takes any decision on those suspicions or allegations without also having had opportunity to hear them, now everybody just walks into the court and say, under the principle of national justice, you did not give me opportunity to be heard. But I mean, certainly that does not also mean that WAEC internal processes or protocols should also be jettisoned. So we can only hope and call on WAEC to fast track those investigative or internal process. But I mean, a lot of times it takes some few weeks or sometimes even a month due to sometimes, I mean, due to the space of the investigation or the pace of the investigation. Then at the end of the day, they are able to release the results. So we can be hopeful that they are able to do their investigations on time and release. But of course, I mean, we are also calling on calm on parents so that at the end of the day, they can go through the process.
No, Ben, go ahead. I was going to move on.
A quick one, though, but if WAEC did invite them to come and do whatever, and there was no move from WAEC to, I mean, that also means, if you invite me and I come and see you and you are not telling me anything for maybe hours, it's a bit of an insult or something of the sort. I'm not, WAEC must go through its processes, nothing about don't go through the processes. But if at the same time, if you've not invited me, I have no warrant to come to you. But if I've come to you and you are not telling me anything, that is also problematic, especially considering the anxiety you spoke of. A lot of students, parents are very worried.
Yes, I agree. But I mean, except to say that this is what has been reported.
Yes.
Unless, of course, maybe we are able to hear officially from WAEC, then they also explain their side. Right. It will be quite unbelievable that I invite you to my house and I refuse to speak to you. Yeah. Maybe there could be a bit of delay in terms of addressing them, because I'm sure it probably was not one person. A lot of parents and their children might have been.
Could they have communicated to people? Maybe,
so I'm sure
they are not ready yet, or something of the sort.
It's probably the miscommunication or some kind of, administrative delay that might have occasioned. But because it's reported, I'm unable to rely on it 100%. But bottom line is that WAEC should, at the end of the day, speed up whatever investigative process so that those...
It's a quick one. The money that was owed WAEC for...
Are you boxing me?
No. I just remembered that. How much of it did you clear before handing over?
I honestly do not have the figures of it. Okay. But if I recall right, I know that about 180 million Ghana cedis has been released to WAEC then. But I'm sure I still have the data on my phone.
I'm not sure how much was given before the administration left. That's why I'm just...
Yes.
Maybe you would have had an idea.
So I think the arrears were from around 2022 up till even now. But I mean, like, if you have been in the public service, particularly how government works, especially when it comes to its agencies, at every point you will work and subsequently you bring in invoices and be paid. So at every point, there are always arrears. I mean, it doesn't matter which government is in power, but of course, as to the pace of payment is also one other concern. Okay. But I am aware, because there was even an instance where one Sunday we have to be at the workplace facilitating some checks. Because if you recall, initially the WAEC PRO came out very strong, and I mean, some even unprintable words were even used directly at the minister, but subsequently was withdrawn and also acknowledged payment of certain money. So I probably will have to confirm the figures for you, but significant monies were paid. That is how come they were able to release the results on time.
How do you feel about the debt relief? $2.8 billion debt relief.
Give me my details for the country, right?
Yes, for the country.
I mean, I would take it from the macro level, because at the end of the day, we are aware, and I'll maintain that it's a prophecy that even the former president Akufo-Addo even gave when he alluded to the fact that we know how to bring back the economy, but we do not know how to bring back human life. So essentially, it was an admission that, particularly post-COVID 2020 beyond, the economy was going to have some hiccups. But now, before we left office, if you recall, the Minister for Finance then had indicated that the economy was recovering, and I mean, all figures show. I am not an economic expert, but of course, from the macro level, the indicators and the variables to measure same are there. So
I don't think this is about economic recovery.
No, I
more
mean,
like giving us some breathing space.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You see, the point is that that's why I'm saying that I'm taking it from the macro point of view. The point is that if you do not have, I mean, a strong trajectory in terms of the economic recovery, certainly nobody is even going to have this arrangement with you. So I'm not, the way you are smiling at me as if I'm doing
I'm only listening to you.
No, but bottom line is that we agree on principle that if you look at the trajectory, particularly you may consider all prominent and dominant variables in making a determination about the growth of the economy. Largely, it presupposes that the economy gradually is becoming resilient and all these arrangements can be factored in. I mean, it's good in terms of...
What I'm hearing...
I'm London. It's good for us because most times it gives you that fiscal space to be able to mobilize yourself, subsequently make payment. Because prior to the IMF negotiation, we had a lot of outstanding debts, particularly from within our international partners. IMF conditionalities largely was based on the fact that most of these debts will be deferred. It gives you that fiscal space. So largely, in terms of the economic outlook, it's good for us as a country. But I mean, bottom line is that we'll still have to pay it one day. But we'll be able to have that space to be able to operate.
Just for clarity, are you saying that the work that your administration did laid the Flint Foundation for us to get to this agreement, which gives us the breathing space to restabilize, and then we can talk about recovery and all that? Is that what you're saying?
You want to put me into the headline?
No. I just want you to clarify. You said that
I'm saying that
our books look good by the time you were leaving office, and that is why maybe we arrived at this, sort of relief. So I'm just clarifying.
Well, I mean, it's not really about the credit for my government, but
Right.
I am of the opinion that governance is not an event. At every point is a process, and certainly initiatives, undertakings, and actions obviously has consequential effects and outcome. It cannot be the case that, for instance, you inherit, let's say, an economy or a country, and then within the next 3 days there is doom so, and rationally or reasonably everybody believes that it is you. Certainly they were going to blame the past government. Even when we left and we had provided food for senior high schools, and of course, CHAS had their own...
Wait, you had provided food for senior high schools?
Okay, so I'm going to... You see, when I'm answering you, but I've always maintained that when you want to find out the truth in a claim, one of the tests has always been empirical verifiability, logical consistency. Well, now I'm going to restrict myself to the logical consistency. This administration, it took this administration, I think, 2 weeks, 4 days before they took food to the schools. The food were only 2 items, maize and rice. Reasonably.
I saw boxes of tinned tomatoes.
The guy, I mean, no, that was a video of a guy who had stolen some. So he presupposes that there were food in the schools. But I'm saying that maize, the one that were transported from the Tama warehouse to the schools, that was only maize and rice. So the question is, before the maize and rice were sent to the school, first question, what were the students eating? That is one. Secondly, maize and rice itself cannot cook itself. Certainly, you have to complement with other food items before you're able to cook.
Right.
If you look at the free SHS scheme and the food supplies, there are 18 food items. It is not possible that within a period, all 18 food items will just vanish from the school. So certainly, I mean, I have my own opinion, maybe this is on TV, but I mean, I've never trusted Primus, the Charles guy. I am of the view that he plays.
Why though?
No, he plays his politics. You see, there can be genuine issues, genuine concern. I mean, I'm not in government again. There is no point of defending government. But the point is that I do not run away from the fact that there can be genuine instances where there is indeed shortage of certain food items in the school. That's why I mentioned that there are about 18 food items. You may have groundnut shortage. You may have maybe palm oil shortage. But it can never be true, particularly the alarm that he sang and created an impression that parents should bring food. We are talking about 1.3 million students. Are you suggesting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, morning, afternoon, evening, students have not eaten?
But they wanted break, which is why they issued that directive that, hold on, don't reopen
No, they were in school.
Until...
his directive on parents, advising parents to prepare banku rice and bread.
Before school reopened,
yes,
they were on a break.
But,
and then
but to be
issued
fair,
a letter saying that,
like Sweetie is saying, before school could reopen, we heard him talk about the fact that was where, in fact, he made mention of the fact that parents should get ready so that you don't send your ward or your child to school.
So that I can respond well.
Ward or child to school without adequate, provisions for food. Else,
No, there were. If I recall, there were two statements that he made.
Yes.
One was in relation to the fact that the ministry should not even open school because he felt at the time that there was no adequate school. Indeed. And there was also a second one when, because we're in government then, the school still reopened.
Yes.
And then he made a case that parents should now give food to their students, to their children to come to school. And I'm saying that unless we are suggesting that within that 2 weeks, 4 days period, parents gave adequate supplies of food to their children that was able to sustain them until those 2 food items were dispatched to the school. So reasonably, that's what I'm saying, that we are checking that.
So if we are following the logical reasoning that you are giving, indeed, to a certain extent, it cannot be that there was absolutely nothing. The students had to survive on something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the adequacy of what was available is also in question, because we've all been in secondary school.
I agree with
there were times where you would run shortages here, and you would have to take an alternative supplement just to keep body and soul together.
I agree. In terms of the adequacy, I perfectly agree. Because even whilst we're in government, at no point will you have food that can sustain you mostly beyond even 3 weeks. Because the food supply arrangement has always been a continuous process. The point is that most of the schools don't even have adequate storage facilities. So you have a lot of suppliers, like I indicated, 18 food items. This week, somebody is sending beans to the school. Another day, this person is sending, this supplier is sending A or B or C, D food. So at every point, there can be genuine instances where you can predict that within the coming days, there's going to be. So that's why I'm saying that he should have situated his comment within that context.
So fair point. I want us to make progress in the papers, but a quick follow-up. So on the bit about suppliers, the video you were referencing, where you see someone who food destined for a school in the Volta region, I believe, and then it had been waylaid, sidelined for something else. About how much to what extent would you say the former education ministry and the government was able to deal with that situation? Because we hear stories all the time. It is a very rampant issue. Matrons and others, items meant for the school, for children to eat. And you can't really study if you've not eaten well. Then people will divert them and sell them and put the money in their pockets. To what extent did you deal with that? Briefly, and then we'll get into it.
In terms of, purely, if you ask me, is a purely criminal act.
Yes, but what systems were put in place to prevent people from...
So you see, most of these crimes that happens are very organized. It is not as though, your suppliers will not send food to the school. But the supplier sends it, invoices are recorded, claims are made at the level of buffer stock or the Ministry of Education for payment, but at your blind side. Well, because it's a crime, certainly people will not come and make an arrangement that you see. So most times you may find a Beza, you may find a storekeeper, you may find a BCD.
A matron.
Yes, most of them. Our approach has been more of a deterrent. Usually there's some level of indictment. At the end of the day, we are also able to ask them to step aside. Then most times we give to the relevant state institution to really look at it.
Where the relevant state institution is what?
Because there's criminal issues, certainly it should be the police. Or the
I just wanted clarity.
Most times that has been the approach. But outside that, the preventive measure has always been that we've made it a point that it is not only one person in the school who signs for the receipt of the food. Mostly it has to go through about 3 or 4 people. So assistant headmaster will sign, matron will sign, just to create a system where there will be a bit of openness and transparency. Because if you are going to give it to one person, that is where you are able to compromise that person. So we had such an arrangement.
But that will be it for my paper then. So let's get to the daily.
Shall we get into your paper?
Oh.
You have the same story about the debt restructuring.
Yeah, I have 2025 Africa Prosperity Dialogues open today. Free senior high school benefits 3.9 million, not 5.1 million. Minister for Education, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. Debt restructuring, I'm sure we've discussed it. Ghana gains 2.8 billion. And then Rules Ministry audit debt. Yeah, dollars, yeah. It's important.
It's important.
And then Rules Ministry audits debt owed contractors. And then I think the final on the Daily Graphic front page, the final story is the Minister of Works designate outlines plans to develop sectors.
Sometimes there are interesting stories on the back page. Maybe you want to
see
see
just a quick one, yeah. On the back page, I have Nungwa livestock breeding lands under siege. I mean, just our land tenure system issue in terms of the maladministration. I'm also seeing Upper West Region Fire Command embarks on night market patrols. Of course,
I think that's interesting. On the back of the market fires.
Market fires. So, I mean, these are the stories that I have here, unless, of course, I get your instruction to go through other stories. But for now, these are the stories that...
Anyone piques your interest?
I mean, because I'm coming from the Ministry of Education, if I run away from the free SHS one...
We'll still bring you there.
Yeah, I know. I'm very much aware. That's why when I saw it, I said, wow, this story is...
It's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. But no, but I mean, it wasn't an area that I wanted to discuss. I needed certain clearances first. But of course, I mean, because I have my speaking notes here, I mean, it's something that we can put into the public. Free SHS benefits 3.9 million, not 5.1 million. Yes, the story is true. It's something that I confirm. But of course, I think the context is also very important. I mean, the explanation in regards to it. First of all, it is important to state that if you look at our time at the Ministry of Education, and why are you so excited?
Oh, I can't smile. I'm not even looking at you. I'm looking at you. I'm smiling.
You're having a conversation and
I was looking at my phone and smiling.
You've got the breaking news. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Former PRO for the Ministry of Education confirms that free SHS benefited 3.9 million and not 5.1 million.
Yes, that's not even why I'm smiling, by the way.
Yes, I mean, I'll be in the headline very soon and I'll be receiving calls. I mean, there was an advanced strategy in addressing this, but it's just that I happen to be sitting here and I've had. I mean, I've gotten an opportunity to respond to it. So let me say that the perceived discrepancy in the numbers under the free SHS program. First of all, I mean, yesterday I was going through some documents. First of all, I think it first found expression in the 2024 budget, media budget review statement, and then subsequently in the 2024 main budget statement, and then I think also in the final State of Nation address delivered by the president.
Was it someone's error?
Yeah. So I am measured in calling it error per se. From the Ministry of Education perspective, who can call it error? Because for all our documentations and records, we have always been using the enrollment numbers. At the Ministry of Education, you can never lie, because if a number of people have enrolled, you cannot change those numbers. Yeah. But you see, Ministry of Finance has been doing financial reporting. And for their financial reporting purposes, they use more or less the cumulative budgetary approach instead of, for instance, relying on the nominal numbers.
Right.
So if, for instance, in 2017, when the free SHS policy was launched, if you were in first year, for their budgetary purposes, they will count you as a beneficiary because of the monies that they release to you.
Yeah.
Right.
You go to a second year, they will still count you as a beneficiary because they are paying for you also in the second year. You go to third year, they will still count you as a beneficiary. So one person per Ministry of Finance budgetary technique for the purpose of releasing money will count one person three times. Because for them, they've released money for such a beneficiary 3 times. Right. That was what found expression in the 2024 budget. And also, of course, I mean, I understand, and of course, I'll admit it's an error. Because at the end of the day, it also found itself in the president's last State of Nation address, which also became a national
Because
issue.
this had even been fact-checked. I've given these about two or three times already.
Yes,
And
but
the
if you
numbers were
use the,
simply
yes,
not
if you use
adding
the
up
enrollment
to that.
figures, you see the reason why it couldn't have been deliberate, maybe even from the side of the Ministry of Education, is that the Ministry of Education has provided the enrollment figure, which is, I mean, a statement of fact within the public space, that 2017, this number of students enrolled, 2018, this number of students enrolled. So those figures are there. And let me put on record, at no point has the Ministry of Education stated 5.7 million anywhere. The Ministry of Education has never mentioned that figure in any of our official correspondence, in any of our data, whether you go to the ministry's platform, because we use the enrollment figures. So when you go to the enrollment figures, up to just last year, those who just went to school, the October data, you are going to find this 3.9 million or so.
So why did the Education Ministry not make the relevant corrections? Because the last fact check I saw even places the number at 3.135 million beneficiaries.
Yes, so that's
why knowing that it was...
I understand. That's what I'm saying, that you cannot even call this error simpliciter. Looking at where it emanated from, and for the purposes that it was being used for. That it was used for their own financial, they relied on their own financial accounting technique, where for the purpose of budgetary allocations, they will count each individual 3 times for the number of times that monies have been released for such a beneficiary.
But so, was there no chance where the Ministry of Education could have come in to say, yes, this is what might have happened, but the correct figure is actually 3 point something?
No, that's what I'm saying. That what happened is not an error. So you don't go and correct it. Of course, for purpose of clarification, particularly when it comes up like this, within the context of Ministry of Finance and their budgetary technique or their budgetary approach, there was no error in what they did, because for them, they will, anytime they release money to you, they will count you. But from us at the Ministry, so it depends on which data you rely on. At the Ministry of Education, we have always maintained the enrollment figures. And of course, the cumulative effect of the enrollment figures will give you around this time, 3.9 million.
Let's make tracks. Let's get into other stories. But it's good we've had you on today explaining some of these education. Interestingly, today we are talking of WAEC, we are talking so it's good we had you on today to delve into some of these.
Yes. So, I mean, when you do your headlines, don't say, we never lied. We never lied. It's Finance Ministry who did their own thing.
Don't worry.
Which found expression in the budget. Ministry of Education have never...
Any other stories you want to look at?
Just one more maybe, and then we can...
Oh, which other story again? Maybe I'll look at the fire, Upper West Region Fire Command embarks on 9th market patrols. I think it's good, because if you look at how these fires start, largely the reports that we are getting has always been that it comes mostly during the night. And people are even suspecting arson attacks and those things, because, I mean, it can also be coincidence that the consistent and accurate fire attacks, it can also be...
These are practically always happening at night.
Yes, it looks too streamlined, even from the layman's point of view. From this market, tomorrow is supposed to be the next market. And I'm not sure it is the case that the market women enjoy so much fire that for them they will just do that. So clearly, we don't only have to be seeing ourselves as talking. We have to be proactive. And I commend them that it shouldn't only be the Upper West region. Beyond the Upper West region, I'm sure other regional police commands and, of course, this state should also be a bit proactive, particularly in Greater Accra.
I was about to mention.
The president directed that they should be patrolling all major markets. That is when they ushered us into this new year with fires at Kantamanto. There was someone in the northern region and all that. So I think they're just...
we had Alex King Nate join us in the studio and say that, in fact, even before the president's directive, they had been contemplating doing this. But it's a logistical problem. You know that. The fire service is heavily... There are regions without, even one...
tenders, even, some regions.
One fire tenders.
I mean, like, most important thing is that it's a step in the right direction. Other places should... I mean, you said there's even a directive from the president.
Yes.
So most times you have no option, unless, of course, there are other operational and logistical constraints. Because for me, it is unacceptable that at every point we may have to have these instances attacks on innocent market women.
All right.
Maybe I Greg Minister to petition oral committee. You know me, I've been an anti-oral person. I saw it. I have an interest. Unless, of course, maybe.
Share your thoughts.
Well, I have always maintained that when we are establishing frameworks or existing frameworks, whilst we may be, I mean, the euphoria surrounding it in terms of the willingness and the energy and the alacrity to even fight corruption, we must also balance it to fix it within the framework of the law. Because I have always maintained that, first of all, from the base, from the grunum, when something is not good, then it defeats the whole purpose of even the establishment in the first place. And my argument on the ORA has always been that, first of all, when the president was then president-elect, at that time when he formed ORA, he was just a private citizen. And a private citizen, of course, you may educate me. I don't want to sound very affirmative, so you quote me for another thing. I'm saying that as a private citizen, do you have the capacity to exercise and undertake activities that establish bodies that purpose to hold some executive powers as a private citizen? If you are to go by that logic, then I can just get up.
What are you calling executive powers?
So,
because as far as we know, they don't have prosecutorial powers. They are only gathering information. So what are you calling
within which framework? Because it came from the president-elect then. But if you look at the nature of their work, it exemplifies more or less they having an executive authority where they can.
You say it exemplifies something like
something like that.
EI.
There was no
executive instrument, so it couldn't have been executive. There was no legislative instrument, so it couldn't. Parliament hadn't done anything in respect of that. Could it have been that yes, the party had won, and the party had made a promise, mind you, to recover all loot, and the party had formed this group, whether as part of the transitional initiatives or not, that look, these people.
We want you to start. The facts are there.
No, relax. We want you to start gathering information. We are well aware. We want you to start gathering information on this. Does that flout any judicial principles, any legislative principles?
No, I am saying that. I'm saying that first of all, you have to have capacity before you can bring into an existence such a body, particularly when the nature of the work of the body is more or less a bit public or have a public interest. As soon as the nature of such a body has a public interest, certainly it has to be situated within a certain framework of the law. Other than that, what would be the legal basis? Today, even those people themselves gathering information, nobody is in terms of their security, there is no framework. In terms of privacy of such information that they've gathered, there is no framework to protect it. My argument is that if you want to fight corruption, you don't come from, a place where it looks so targeted and unreal. If you want to fight corruption genuinely, there have to be a more comprehensive and detailed approach of fighting it. Not necessarily anchored on some prejudices and some assumptions and perceptions that the successive government or elements in the successive government had committed any wrong, has looted. Now, they should bring data and come and tell us how many recoveries that they've been able to make. Okay, beyond the politically exposed individual, what about the civil servants who may probably have collaborated with those politically exposed persons? Because I work in the Ministry of Education. Any crime or any issue of corruption cannot be committed by one person. Mostly, it has to be organized. So if the logic is that you are recovering all loot, what also happens to the civil servants? Fighting corruption has to be very comprehensive. It has to be detailed. It does not just have to be looking faces, just, doing something to represent something. Because at the end of the day...
that's the same argument they're making.
In
fact, I remember we spoke to the former Deputy Attorney General, and he said the reason why so many cases we've not seen a conclusion of so many cases because of the lack of evidence, right? And if we want to fight corruption, like you said, we can't just hang anyone without actually getting the evidence to back the claim that they've caused, some financial loss to the state or whatever. This committee is set up so that they can gather what will qualify as evidence. So they're gathering information, they're verifying the information, and then they'll hand it over to the actual bodies that can prosecute, can investigate.
You see, the point is that the point is that there are relevant state institutions which already have the mandate to do same.
But there are some inadequacies, which is
let me
why
tell
we don't have the evidence
so
to prosecute.
you think that ORA is more stronger in terms of structure and legal framework than, let's say, let's say the Ghana Police Service. Is that the logic?
I don't think that is the logic in any way. But on
ORA
the other hand,
is just a populist duplication of agencies and institutions, just jet or anchored on
Should I
information
call UKK? Have you been called UKK before?
Yeah, my father is called
While you can look at whatever populist element may have come to it. In Nigeria, for example, I have seen some things that seem to be populist, but in the end, they delivered some results, right? So you can step aside from the populism. Yes, a party, someone could call Free SHS populist. You made the promise, so you had to. Yeah, that's okay. But the point is, what are we going to achieve from it? I'm looking at the end of oral, not just the beginning. And of course, you mentioned state institutions. We had an interaction with Alfred Tuan-Yeboah.
Yes.
The tier ones. He's my friend.
Former deputy agent.
Yeah. Former.
He's a friend too. He's my friend too, and my former classmate. Right? And we had conversations about even prosecutions.
Yes.
And how sometimes the prosecutors from, the Ghana Police Service may not exactly be able to come forward with what you need. He made reference to Ahmed Hussein Swale and some of the other things. You ask yourself, there's IOCO, there's a Ghana Police Service, there are all of these things. There's the OSP and all of that. Some still say some things are not going well and we need, so it's neither here nor there. It's not so much of, someone is saying because they are not well.
Benjamin, I maintain.
You maintain,
if state institutions are not working, you strengthen them. You strengthen them, you don't duplicate them. I'm saying that if state institutions are not working, you strengthen them, you don't duplicate them. That's my point. Because, what happens when ORA is also not working? I mean, I am an anti-OSP because I am of the view that when there are existing structures already constitutionally provided, you have to strengthen them. I am a believer that state institutions must be strengthened. I am a believer that private persons who hold public influence must be strengthened. And of course, we build systems that can also inure to benefit in terms of development and governance. But when you go and establish institutions, just duplicating them to appear as though it's working. See, let us call ORA now. Now Kujetu is busy, they are all lobbying for appointments, and we think they are going to gather with information. And you see,
they've presented over 700 petitions to the presidency. They've received and handed over, from the last count, over 700 petitions.
As for petitions, I'm coming. No, let me land. Let me respond. As for petitions, you can give a million or millions of them. As at now, if you go to AG, the dockets that are assessed on their files, I'm not sure they'll be able to count.
For the sake of time, we have to move on. But what do you think quickly about this? Since you are talking about, because the OSP is like an ombudsman, right? Do you think the Ministry of Justice should be decoupled from the Attorney General so that the Attorney General does proper work for government, the Ministry of Justice serves the people? Just a quick response. What's your take on that? Because it veers into the conversation we're having.
Yes, I believe in that.
It should be decoupled.
Yeah, it should be decoupled.
All right.
You know me, I'm against constitutional review. But this is the only review that...
You're against constitutional review?
Yes.
Like no review at all?
I mean, I am of the view that the Constitution already gives processes for amending concerns or provisions that you believe that we should probably...
AKA in Parliament?
Even the entrenched and non-entrenched, entrenched 290, non-entrenched 291. So I don't think we have to go fishing for problems. And I've always maintained that our Constitution is one of the best in the world. Because for me, if we are initiating a review and the purpose or the motive is that is to fast-track development and make our Constitution a developmental document rather than a political document, my conviction is one, Now, when it comes to development, it has more to do with leadership and the political will.
Okay,
when President Mahama promised lean government, of course, me, I don't believe it, but at least on the optics and the face of it, he appears to be, at least for his ministers, the Constitution forced him to appoint 60 ministers. It's not leadership.
Okay,
so me, I've never believed it. But that's the only review that was...
Constitutional Review Commission, Professor Tuguba and his team and the way
I think that's
and now
there was 2010 one
and others.
There was the 2010 one. There was the one set up by Honorable Chairman Sabos, but that was the ministerial level.
Yeah.
And this very
now HPC Prempe is also the latest.
Let's see how it goes.
Let me just leave you with headlines from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Angela List asserts role in BCM leadership. President returns home from 3-nation visit. Ghana official creditors.
I want to find out which flight did you use.
Pardon me.
Which flight did you use? It's important to.
Oh, this time he used
the president.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because his safety is paramount to all of us.
But Jata, they said it was being fueled by.
No, it doesn't matter. It's not sustainable. So if I become a president one day, my brother doesn't have a jet, what will I do?
Okay.
So we have to get...
Maybe by that time I have a jet and you can...
Well, anyway.
Bakavoma renders an unreserved apology to Appointments Committee. There's also Restore Hope to Cocoa Sector. That's according to farmers. And Bledi, Traditional Authority hands for person responsible for burning portions of Afajato. I'll just summarize. So this Afajato issue, someone went and burnt portions of the mountain range vegetation. And they have some rules against that dating back to the 90s, 1998 to be specific. So they are on a manhunt for the person. Apparently, it was in respect of charcoal burning. Then cocoa farmers in the Huni Valley Cocoa District of the Western Region have expressed support for the new government and expressed the belief it would restore hope to one of Ghana's key contributors to GDP. And they are talking about more help for cocoa farmers. But you know, there's something interesting, which tomorrow I'll bring through in my blunt thoughts as well. Cocoa production has really taken a hit, and it shows its tentacles in different ways. But while we've done that, gold seems to have appreciated quite a bit, and it appears you lose here, you gain there. But it's something we'll get into.
Yes.
Any final thoughts?
I mean, I'll just end on your last headline. I mean, on this. The balance between the gold and the cocoa. I think it all has its own role that it plays particularly in holding the economy. But I wanted us to issue a disclaimer that it is in no way suggested that this government should be fixated so much on gold and end up going to do galamsey. Your own journalist, Erastus, has called them out.
All right.
When we were there, a higher measure and a higher standard was on us. We are hoping that they do same. The fact that we're raising gold,
we have to go. I have to do something quickly. Thank you very much. Someone just alerted me to this. I saw a Facebook. Please watch out for AI and deep fake. There's another video someone just sent to me on Facebook where I am giving the news, and there's there's talk of a car bomb explosion with one Dr. Maduku. All of that is false. Please watch out. Be careful what content you take up. And it's another thing we'll be reporting from here on Facebook. It's rife nowadays. Happy birthday to the love of my life. Not me. Happy birthday to the love of my life, Mrs. Dorcas Jumo Ajiman, Assistant Superintendent of Immigration at the Kotoka International Airport. And he ends, have a good one, Bay. Okay. So happy birthday to you, Dorcas Jumo Ajiman. And it's from your husband, Kwame Jumo Ajiman. Sweetie.
Yes, that ends the news review segment on the AM show. But stay, Haruna Mubarak serves you AM Sports. Kwesi Kwateng is former PRO for the Ministry of Education. Thank you so much for joining us. Sports comes up next.
Good morning. Let's do sports now on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. Now, newly appointed Midiama Sporting Club head coach Ibrahim Tanko has made his intentions clear of winning more for the club. Tanko, who parted ways with Accra Lions, joined Midiama on a 2.5-year deal. The Takwa-based club have won 1 Premier League title and 2 FA Cup trophies, and Tanko is keen to add more.
I feel blessed because I knew Midiama not today. and I'm friends to the president, I think almost 6 years or 7 years. So, and today I'm here, I find a new home. So definitely I'm feeling happy.
We do have numerous clubs in Ghana. Why do you choose Mediama Sporting Club?
Yes, because Mediama Sporting Club is one of the biggest in the country. When you look at the last 10 years, what the team achieved with all the infrastructure, and yeah, I think it's a very good choice for me. I think I can make it happen here.
Mediama winning 2 FA Cup, 1 Premier League, and 2 Super Cup. Would that bring any pressure on you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's in the nature of the sports we are in. We always want to be better, definitely. And the success is there, like I said before. And I'm here also to achieve something. So definitely, before my end of my tenure, I'm sure that the cups will be more. Yes, I'm sure, and I hope that we all are going to enjoy the team. And I will only tell them that I will give my best, and I'm sure that at the end, the best will be more fruitful for them, so that they will also be happy.
Now, Ghana is hosting a 3-day FIFA financial governance workshop for general secretaries and chief finance officers of various football federations. The workshop aims to enhance financial governance to ensure accountability and transparency. Lawrence Baidu was at the event and filed this report.
The FIFA Finance Governance Workshop makes a return for the first time in 5 years. The workshop is being held for English-speaking member associations on the continent with the aim of improving financial governance in football. At the opening ceremony on Wednesday, January 29, FIFA's head of financial governance program, Christopher Supiga, says he expects the training to have a positive impact on respective member associations.
At the end of this training, these member associations should be entitled to learn a lot about different topics, such as how to prevent conflict of interests, what kind of measures they should put in place in order to select different providers under the procurement procedures. We will share a lot of best practices, so we have elaborated a financial governance guide which contains a lot of material for member associations to learn and then to implement in the relative member association in the country.
For the Ghana Football Association, this is the first time they are hosting the program. General Secretary Prosper Arison Adu believes the success of the association was key to being handed the privilege to host the workshop.
It is extremely beneficial for us to host the FIFA Financial Governance Workshop in Accra. I think that we are happy about the opportunity to host our fellow member associations in Ghana. That said, it shows that FIFA is in sync with us and they believe we can host. Because in choosing the host, they take the opportunity to look at the way you have been managing your FA, because if you are not managing the FA well, FIFA will not give us this opportunity. So I think that we are excited to have this workshop here in Accra and to have our colleagues coming over.
The 3-day event is scheduled to end on Friday, January 31.
Now, Le Havre forward and Ghana international Andre Dede Ayew has hailed his parents and former Black Stars teammates John Mensah and John Pentel for their impact on his career. According to Ayew, who is Ghana's most capped player, these individuals were instrumental in his development as a footballer and his role in the national team.
Hi, I'm Andre Ayew, and these are the 5 people who made me. The first person is my father. He is my idol. He's very influential in everything that I do. He has always supported, always advised, and who made me always want to dream big. He's my everything. Number 2 is my mom. She played a huge role. She's the queen of the Ayew family. She handles everything, good, bad, and education. We never lacked anything when we were young, so we were very blessed. These two are on top of the list. The third person is, may his soul rest in peace, Pap Diouf. I knew him since I was a baby. He was the agent of my dad. We're growing up with him, and then when my dad stopped playing, he was still coming to the house. Him and my dad had a really, really good relationship. I came to Marseille when I was about 13, 14, and then he was the one who was there. He shaped my mindset in a lot of ways. He made me understand what life is about, what football is about, His word was, you are going to succeed, you will make it, but it's how you make it. How is everyone going to remember you in football, but most importantly outside the pitch? And, those are things that to date comes back into my mind. The fourth person is, I would say, like Auntie Hala. She's the eldest from my mother's side. She's my second mother. She came with me to France when I was coming back. She believed in me from day one. Somebody which I love and who is very dear to my heart. I think the fifth person, well, it won't be one person in general, but I think somebody like, José Anigo was very important to me. Didier Deschamps was very important to me. Older players who take care of you, who were there for you. When we go to the national team like John Mensah, John Pencil. I'm a boy who works a lot with loyalty, and I respect loyalty a lot. For me, it's the most important thing, and these people around were the people who really made me become who I am.
This is the AM show. Welcome back. We're going to tell you a story about something you already know about. Cocoa. Yes. It's all about the premiere of this new film, Reclaiming Cocoa, which peels back the layers of this complex industry, taking viewers on a journey from the lush cocoa farms of Ghana to the polished chocolate shells in Switzerland, where they don't grow any cocoa, by the way. And of course, their famous chocolate consists mostly of Ghanaian beans. Well, joining me in the studio, I have one of them here joining the conversation. He's a filmmaker, he's a producer, he's in the person of Philippe Stalder. He's an investigative filmmaker from Switzerland. We also have Nana Aduna II, Achiamehene of Ikuapem traditional area. I noticed when I butchered it the first time, you Achiamehene of the Ikuapem traditional area.
Tried.
I like your shirt, by the way. What is in there? Afritude.
Exactly.
African attitude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is very, very important for cocoa.
Which is?
Extremely.
Yeah. but even before I bring in Philippe, who's director-producer for Reclaiming Cocoa, and we talk about it, from you are integrated in the system.
Yes.
You're a farmer, are you?
Yes. I'm a farmer and many other things as well.
I was just referencing before we came on air, the Ghanaian Times back page today, restore hope to cocoa sector farmers. Is this a call how does this feed into what we're about to
this
discuss?
is even an understatement.
It is.
From where we are coming from. This is an understatement, complete understatement.
Yes. What's the state of cocoa farming in Ghana, if I asked you?
I think it is abysmal. If you actually, in terms of how we the farmers feel, it's completely abysmal. It is an insult. Complete.
Why?
Because historically, that is how it was set up. And we've actually not done much in terms of actually changing the sector to our advantage.
So since the colonial era?
Since the colonial era, before the colonial era, because there's a very interesting link between the transatlantic slavery and cocoa, which because we don't investigate or tell our history, our stories properly, we completely miss the link. And the honest truth is that it was brought from South and Central America by the Europeans, close enough directly for them to grow, for us to grow, for them to take. It was Central and South America is far away.
Yeah.
Africa is close. We were the slaves who were growing the thing in the Caribbean, etc. It was very easy for them to, when they decided that, okay, so let's relocate the industry here and short trip
closer
to Europe. Yeah.
Better shipping route.
Exactly. And this whole Fernando Po
story.
Yeah, Sao Tome. It was actually the Portuguese who were slave owners who actually brought that system to that part of the world, which is just off the West African coast. And that was, they were actually importing and using slaves from around the countries there. And the whole shift to the Gold Coast in particular was engineered by Cadburys, and Cadburys were Quakers. And the Quakers, anybody who remembers Quaker oats? Yeah, it was because Quakers were like the liberals. Oh, we don't like this, we don't like that, we are anti-slavery, no. But they actually benefited. The British, for example, paid a significant amount of money to slave owners, including the Quakers. So it's just been a game.
It's been a circle.
It's just been a game.
And speaking about the historical antecedents, I would like you to touch on that, Philippe. But first off, why this film in the first place? Why this film? Why?
So this whole project started when the former Guinean president visited Switzerland, and he made this famous statement in 22 where he announced that Ghana is going to reduce the export of raw beans and wants to enhance local processing and local value addition. So this triggered the investigation, but then we found out very quickly that it doesn't really work out this way, that a lot of the local processing, even under this system, would still be done by like multinational companies or like registered in the tema-free zone. They don't even pay like tax on their profits. So it's like a continuation of the colonial model, which Nana just mentioned. And then we took a deep dive also into the traceability claims of the Western chocolate companies, who basically tell their customers that if you pay a little bit extra to buy like a chocolate bar with a label that says ethical cocoa, that you can basically consume chocolate with a clean conscience. But so we did some investigations into these value chains, and we realized that a lot of the traceability claims, they don't add up. The beans are being mislabeled. And basically it's a marketing scheme on the neck of the cocoa farmers.
And you see some of them produced, and you see Africa this and Ghana that, but technically some of them are not following, like you said. The value chains are mere claims, and it's also feeding back into Europe, not even right here in Ghana.
So the value chain, it does end up in Ghana, but they claim that they work with registered farms where no deforestation is taking place, no child labor is taking place. So we actually tested this claim, and we sent an unregistered farmer to sell a bag of beans into the value chain, the delivery chain of a Swiss chocolate consumer.
Let me guess, it was successful.
You will have to come and watch the movie.
To find out more. To find out more.
What does this expose then when it comes to corruption in the system? And that's for you quickly, and I'll come to you on that as well.
To me, it just shows that there's still a long way to go in terms of working on the issues that are present.
For you, Nana?
Okay, I think that let me just first quickly acknowledge my Queen Mother, Okuapihinima, because we had a very significant result yesterday. Our whole Omahini, Okuapihini issue was solved by the Supreme Council, so it is only appropriate. And of course, I'm talking about cocoa.
Yeah.
And just back to the question of corruption. And it actually starts with cocoa and the Basel Missionary. Our corruption issues, anybody who has a phone should Wikipedia Reverend Andreas Rees and read about his character. Read about his character. And then we will understand that when they came, they brought a book, but we didn't know how to read it. So we watched their behavior, we watched their character.
Was this book the Bible?
No. In the book, yes, it was the Bible, including other books. But we watched how they behaved. So when we start talking about corruption, I tell people, go and read about the character of Reverend Andreas Rees, plus some of the characters that came. Because, sorry, the guys who came whether they were slave traders, whether they were colonial, whatever, they were not exactly the cream of the crop that came. No. There were lots of thugs that came our way. Lots of thugs. So please, again, just to answer that question of corruption. Now, just going further on, you know, when you don't give someone their real value, and the honest truth is that when you look at our current cocoa board system, in which they say technically they give the farmer 70%, it's actually not true. One. And two.
It's not.
No, it isn't. At the moment, the price is actually 30%. What we're being given is 30% of the FOB, whatever.
Right.
Okay. That is, and that's been actually been, it's almost like been a simple system of taxation for decades to centuries. If you actually also understand that syndicated loan model.
I was just about to go there.
That is, it's actually it's a scam.
It
is? You know, I own something, or we Ghana own something. Then we go and borrow money to buy something we own. Does it make sense? And you do that for 32 years in succession.
But apparently you don't have the money to purchase the beans.
Then get out, then the middleman...
You take the money. I am not in support of the syndicated loan system.
Okay.
Just understand.
Okay.
My position is that we can do better. It's been, because it was a stopgap measure. It was at the point supposed to be, oh, this time we don't have the funds, let's borrow. And then it became the norm rather than the exception.
Yeah.
But I am saying, they also say we don't have the funds to do this.
You and who don't have the funds?
We're going to take the money from these banks, make the purchases, and then we make commitments to them so that then they
President Mahama made a very interesting comment before he came into office, that we should not sabotage the farmers, or we shouldn't, the bureaucracy should not compete with the production.
Right.
The syndicated loan and all of it just funds the bureaucracy. After all, we don't buy the cocoa ourselves. The external, whatever.
Yeah.
If you are looking, is particularly with the chocolate industry. Of course, there are other factors which we have to look at. You know, as soon as you have a product which you do not utilize or consume yourself, you are at the mercy of those who are actually using it, which is why we're wearing this T-shirt called Attitude.
It's an important point you make, Philippe, because actually, if you look at how many Ghanaians consume chocolate, you would be surprised. I don't know what you've done on that. But let's get back to your documentary, which is actually teaser awarded Best Short Documentary. That's the Lagos Royal Cocoa International Film Festival. What does this documentary, titled Reclaiming Cocoa, what does it bring to the fore?
So it has three different parts. In the first part, we look at the problems that Nana just has mentioned, that I touched upon, the traceability issues. Then in the second part, we look at the reasons for this problem, which is A, historical, but B, is also current national legislation, which, for example, also hinders local producers of cocoa products from accessing the beans, because they have to pay an import duty on the beans if they want to buy them if they want to buy semi-finished products from the government. And then the third part, we look at possible solutions. So there we highlight 5 different local companies that found a way of adding value to cocoa, not only to chocolates. Only one of the 5 is a chocolate company. 4 others, they found alternative uses of adding value to cocoa locally. And this is kind of the end of it, where we present possible solutions on how actually Ghana could reclaim the cocoa and add value locally.
I'll come back to you in a bit. How does this documentary aid you, farmers, those of you in the value chain? How does it help expose
I
the
think
issues?
that this documentary would not have been possible, first and foremost, without external support, and not from an NGO, but from an individual. Because otherwise it would have been sabotaged and would have been killed off before it even saw the light.
Sabotaged by whom?
By the interested parties that want the status quo remain.
Who are these parties?
Oh, one would be our own cocoa board, because that is actually a machinery that is a relic of the colonial era. Plus,
there's new leadership. Do you think anything will change?
I would imagine that if it doesn't change, the industry will grind to a halt.
Dr. Randy Abe is there now. Would you?
You know, what I would tell Randy, and I know Randy, okay, because I've worked with the Black Stars before. I'm actually, I was a team psychologist in the World Cup. What I would say to Randy, like they always say, football is for football people. Okay. So
Coco.
if you really want to understand Coco properly, he's a political appointment. And the current machinery it was set up for a reason.
Right.
And the recent price escalation beyond, and it has actually exposed how irrational our system is, and especially for we, the producers. It is actually criminal. It is slavery, if you ask me. It's almost like, it's just like what they basically just did was they shifted the slave, whatever, to the farms here, and they're sitting there, and then they've appointed our own selves, for example, Cocoa Board, as the puppet masters to get this, the farmers, yeah.
Nana, what I hear you saying is that, and in some instances it's been proven true, after all, the leaders who took over from the colonial era, it was almost as though the colonizers moved, the imperialists moved, and they got in their place. You're basically saying cocoa farming is like some form of, an extended form of slavery, modern day slavery.
That's exactly what it is. And I'll just highlight that. At the time of independence, Nkrumah was very wise because we needed certain developmental goals, etc. So basically a lot of the stuff, and even pre-independence, look, University of Ghana, Takrady Port, Achimota School, etc. They were all funded by Cocoa, Gagisberg, wisely at the time, but it was in their interest. And Nkrumah wisely saw the impact of cocoa. So again, in exchange for that, there are certain things that he talked about, the CMB scholarship, whatever. Those were things, those were carrots and whatever, to cushion and whatever, so that there was, fine, use the cocoa for development, but for the producers, you know, give them certain advantages. Where are those advantages now? Two, the value is in adding value to the stuff. It's not in growing the raw material. So this is, again, this comes back to the point about diversification of what we use the cocoa for. Look, chocolate is not our product, whether we like it or not. We can jump high, wherever in high water. The president going to Switzerland or the ex-president going to Switzerland to say that we'll do chocolate. I'm sorry, and I say it in the movie. Sorry, are we thinking? No, we're not. Because the value that we need to add, we need to look beyond what or how this thing was introduced to us and what it's being used for. We have to find ways in which we utilize the raw material ourselves.
Okay. Let me, as we near the end of this conversation, Philippe, what is the end game of this documentary? And like Nana has rightly said, if not for your intervention, this could have been sabotaged. The powers that be may have, killed it. It would have died a natural death. But it has seen the light of day. What is the end game for you of this documentary? And I'll ask you that same question. And then you can tell us where it's airing, when it's airing.
Okay, so I think for me, what's in the big picture I try to achieve with this project is to kind of build a bridge between the consumers and the producers of this product that so many people around the world love. It's a $130 billion industry. And I came to realize how alienated the two groups are. Many cocoa farmers don't even know that chocolate is being made out of this product, or they haven't tasted chocolate yet in their lives. And many chocolate consumers, they don't really know anything about where the resource is coming from, who produces it, and in which reality these people live. So this is ultimately what I try to do. And yeah, it airs tomorrow, 6 o'clock at the Alliance Française. You can all come by, and we will have a panel discussion after the film where we would try to figure out a way on how to move forward.
The film does proffer some solutions, right?
It offers,
like you said,
it offers certain. It's not an absolute solution. It's also not my job as a European filmmaker to present these solutions to Ghana. But we just talk to different people who do certain things that look like they are going into the right direction.
Right. For you, what's the end game? You feature in this documentary.
Yeah, I think the end game for some of us is beginning to have the conversation of real change. It's beginning to see things different. For example, again, a lot of people, when they talk about chocolate, when they talk about cocoa, they equate it to chocolate. But that's a European construct. That's the way they would like us to continue thinking.
I mean, even the husks have their use.
Everything, right from even the leaves of the tree have their use. I mean, I'm a medical doctor by profession in terms of, I mean, the health benefits of real chocotil, which is what it was called in the Amazon. The real health benefit, historically, it was called food for the gods. It was reserved for only those, when you were a commoner or plebeian got cocoa, it means you were going to be killed.
You have to use the word plebeian. You have to go into that.
Exactly. It means you're ready for death. I mean, so there are many things that, it's, for me, the movie, first and foremost, it being done, bringing the awareness, possibilities of change, plus just a proper beginning to end or beginning to current education on cocoa, because a lot of us do not know. We actually assume we know in Ghana, but we don't know much about, we don't know as much about cocoa as we need to, because it's supposed to be the backbone of our economy.
Quick point, lest I forget. Should we do more education on cocoa, maybe talk more about it in our textbooks and stuff like that?
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
More documentaries.
That is a complete, because that's a complete no-brainer. I mean, something that is supposed to sustain and you build on. I mean, our children and grandfather, whatever, we should be singing about the different aspects of it. Yeah.
I see. Interesting points. I'll take your final thoughts. And just a quick one, though. Is it free, open to the public?
Everybody can come. We charge 100 Ghana cedis to come in.
Okay.
But if anybody lacks the funds, you can get in touch with me and we'll find a way.
You'll find a way. Yeah. Okay. Final words? Any final words?
Thanks a lot for the invitation. Come and see the film.
All right.
Yes, it's a must-see, and I think it's a must-promote. And we do hope that it will start all of us thinking and accelerate the changes that are needed in the cocoa sector.
Thank you, and I love your afritude.
Thank you very much for that, and salute to the designer.
Yeah, he or she should get me one of because
I'll definitely.
I'm a Ghanaian and an African with a lot of attitude.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. We had Nana Aduna II, Achiamehene of the Akuapem traditional area. We also had Philippe Stalder, investigative filmmaker from Switzerland. And he, of course, is the producer-director of this award-winning film, Reclaiming Cocoa. It airs at Alliance Francaise tomorrow at 6 p.m. Only for 100 Ghana cedis. Come and get inside. Well, stick and stay. We'll be back on the AM show with more.
Welcome back. You're still watching the AM show on Joy News. And before we get into the other stories that make our big story segment this morning, let me remind you that Medicus Hospital is a modern healthcare facility built with your recovery in mind, spacious wards built with your family in mind, a warm and caring pediatric unit built with your children in mind. And they've assembled some of the brightest minds in medicine, led by Dr. Yao Safo, the drive time doctor, to serve you. And we offer general medical services as well as specialist services in plastic surgery, obstetrics and gynecology, child health, urology, psychiatry, and eye care. Additionally, offer a comprehensive medical diagnostic service encompassing endoscopy, medical laboratory services, x-rays, and scans. There is a 24-hour pharmacy that ensures you will always receive efficacious, safe, and affordable medicines. But we bring you the most powerful medicine of all time: simple human kindness and empathy. And we take pride in holding ourselves to the highest attainable standards. Plus, we accept all forms of payment, including from private health insurance companies. You can locate Medicas Hospital at number 10 Kincho Street, near Ashaliboche School Junction, or simply call 0501-477-340, or reach us on all social media platforms at Medicas GH. Medicas Hospital, a place of healing. Now, let me also tell you about solar. You want to SolarMate Ghana. You have to select a solar system from our various solar packages, ranging from 30,000 Ghana cedis to 99,000 Ghana cedis. And all our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries. Now, you must get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar power station, or solar generator ranging from 1,000 megawatts to 20,000 watts. You also want to, we also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. All this at SolarMate Ghana. You can Google SolarMate to find us both on Facebook, on Instagram, or simply contact us on 050-832-0470. SolarMate Ghana is located at Adringano, East Legon. SolarMate, we go everywhere. There's a birthday celebrant that I think we're all excited about today. Happy birthday, but it's especially, Loretta is especially excited today. She wore a t-shirt with the birthday celebrant's face on it. Happy birthday to my best girl, Mary Gifty Boateng. Knowing you is loving you. I wish you a day filled with love, laughter, and every blessing. You deserve only the best. I'm grateful to you. Grateful to have you in my life. I love you, from your girl, Loretta. But also from all of us here, from the AM show team, we really appreciate you. That is our social media manager. All the posts you see, live streaming. This is a beautiful lady behind it, Gifty Boateng. We love and appreciate you. Happy birthday, girl. That takes us into our big stories. Now, we're going to be talking about Oliver Baka-Vomawo and that apology to the Appointments Committee yesterday, saying that the intent of his post had never been to disparage them. But the question is, how do we actually deal with this negative public perception that seems to have clouded the work of the Appointments Committee, both past and present? Before we discuss, let's take a report on that.
Finally had its day with activist and lawyer Oliver Baka-Vomawo over those social media comments. The committee members, especially on the MPP side, were furious and pressed Oliver Baka-Vomawo to speak himself and not to be speaking through his lawyer. In fact, as the back and forth ensued, there was this clash between a lawyer for Oliver Baka-Vomawo, Nana Tudadzi, an experienced politician himself, and former chief of staff under the erstwhile Rawlings administration. Here is what panned out at the committee.
We made that post but it gave a certain reason and indicate that if that statement appears or seems to have,
Counsel, with the greatest respect, as we sit here, very respected senior citizens of this country are engaging us. We were initially divided on this matter. Please help your client. It's not a matter of, Leonard, we respect you. You know, it's because I'm sure he knows why he chose you. You are a respected counsel. This issue of if, are you rendering an unqualified apology? If not, let's close this matter. Are you apologizing and are you going to pull it down and all? Let's close this matter because the speaker is of the view that we should manage this thing, and that is why we are managing. But you cannot continue. We give you the chance, 50 years at the bar, this at the bar. No, Mr. Nana, 2000.
I would have protest.
No, you can protest if you want us to have no, because I've opened the window for us to solve this matter. This is not an NDC MPP matter. No, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, with the greatest respect, I am no. We want to solve it, but this is not a matter of 10 years at the bar, 50 years at the bar.
Oliver Barker-Vormawor then attempted to read a prepared speech in which he tried to lay out the basis for that post. But the committee were not interested in that, except to impress on him to offer his formal apologies for those comments, which Oliver Barker-Vormawor obliged.
I want to begin by reiterating my utmost respect for the committee and its constitutional role and the job or task it has to vet persons to high office in this country. At no point did I accuse the chair of this committee or members of the NDC for having asked for or to be given money or to submit themselves to oral. The misinformation, as I said, was appeared on a Facebook post under one NPP Projects Bureau. In fact, there's evidence that 4 days ago when the post appeared, I commented on it as being fake. Unfortunately, I must also address the claim that it is a notorious fact that he's a member of the NDC. In fact, I must say that the victory of the NDC, now everybody says they are NDC members. But this is completely untrue. I have not been a member of the NDC in the past. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Manasseh Azure published a book, The President Ghana Never Got. This was his words in the book.
Please, are you going to render apology? We are not interested in what Manasseh has said in the past. Please.
Mr. Manasseh said, Muntaka never mentioned that the only cash that came to the appointment
Mr.
committee...
Oliver Barker-Vormawor, are you going to do justification or you want to render an apology and we close this meeting?
If the committee resolves that the context of the post is irrelevant to the commission, the question here, I'm happy to proceed as the committee has directed. Now,
proceed as the committee has directed.
Mr. Chair, I am saying here clearly that my post was not intended to disparage members of the committee, and I have not intended to say that members of this committee have received or demanded bribes from various individuals. And for those reasons, I apologize.
After this apology and retraction, the committee then discharged Oliver Barker-Vormawor.
Your client, having apologized, is hereby discharged.
Very grateful for the patience and tolerance.
Thank you very much for attending upon the committee and clarifying issue.
Still on the appointment committee, though, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagwin has not been enthused about how the committee is going about its work. Alban Bagwin said that it appeared the committee was not following the rules laid out for its work.
Respect is earned. Please. Appointments Committee. We have crafted rules of how Appointments Committee should conduct the business of public hearing. That is the term. I'm not too sure there's reference to those rules in what I am witnessing myself.
The committee has not started today to vet nominees, apart from hearing from Oliver Barker-Vormawor. We expect that on Thursday, the committee will resume its public hearings and continue to vet. With the advertisement already outside, we expect Sabolo Kujito Blakwa, the designate for Foreign Affairs, Minister-designate for Communication, also Sam George, and other regional ministerial nominees to also appear before the vetting committee and respond to questions. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, let's discuss this. Joining us via Zoom is Samuel Obeng, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. Mr. Obeng, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
Right. We'll discuss that apology, the integrity of the appointment committee, and also the Speaker's position on whether or not it was the appointment committee that should have taken that on. But let's start with a bit of background. Can you give us a background in terms of how we got to this point? And have there been instances where the appointments committee have come under question in terms of their integrity?
Well, yes, there's been many instances where the appointments committee, just like many parliamentary committees, have come some public scrutiny so far as integrity is concerned, so far as issues of allegations of bribery and money collections and what have you are concerned. And that is why I am of the considered opinion that this appointments committee, upon seeing these publications, wanted to nip the situation in the bud and deal with it right from the onset. Now, what they try to do with that, considering the limitations that currently exist in Parliament, and when I say limitations, I mean the non-existence of a properly constituted privileges and immunities committee, as it's currently named. They decided that they wanted to use the route of calling the gentleman, Mr. Vomawo, as a witness of the committee. Every committee of parliament is clothed with the power to invite witnesses to assist the committee in discharging its duties. These witnesses could be expert witnesses who are coming to provide expertise to the committee. They could be witnesses who are coming to answer specific questions. They could be witnesses who are doing different kinds of things for the committee. So he as a witness, and this time around, not as somebody who's been charged for contempt. And I think that distinction needs to be made, because the Committee on Appointments does not have the power to haul people before it for contempt. As a witness, he came and he sought to provide details around what it is that he altered and what it is that he did not alter, and eventually apologized. And I think that's like the background to this. But ultimately, what this shows is that we have a parliament that is pretty worried about its reputation. And once it is worried about its reputation and integrity, it must be seen to be doing things right and doing the right things towards remedying the injured reputation. And that includes deliberately as an institution going into the issues of why people perceive it that way, what has happened in the past, what are the public perceptions. There may probably even be instances where maybe it is not the members of parliament themselves who are demanding, but people, because they think that this is the way to go, are offering these kinds of things. Why are people offering? What have they heard? And based on all of these findings, perhaps come up with some thorough arrangements, codes of conduct, internal policy documents around MPs and how they deal with such matters. That will be a good legacy that can be left behind by Speaker Babin, who in the past, as a member himself, has accused the House of bribe taking, and a leader of government business, Mr. Ayariga, who has also been a victim, so to speak, of these circumstances.
You mentioned Parliament deliberately trying to turn that image around, right? What would that look like? Is that what the appointment committee sought to do? And is that the right way to go?
Well, to an extent, that's what they sought to do. As to whether that's the right way to go or the conclusive way to leaves much to be desired. Remember that if you have an issue of public perception and public image that needs to be repaired, yes, you can go about the route of being seen as the headmaster, the school teacher with the long cane, anybody that hauls you out, you haul the person because you've got the power so to do, and then you use public hearings to, as we say in this our country, put the fear of God in that individual. You have that route. But you also have the route of making sure that you are dealing with the matter and dealing with it conclusively. And what would that include? That will include acknowledging that, look, there is a problem, and as an institution, we want to face the problem head on. We're not going to be waiting until there is another vetting for people to start throwing allegations, and this is where we are going to start the firefighting approach. But even in the absence of any vetting, even in the absence of any allegation, even in the absence of any supposed scandal, we as an institution of parliament are willing to start a process towards understanding why this is so and towards remedying it. And I think that's what Parliament should be focusing on the more.
Do you think that apology fits or fixes the gap that Parliament sought to close in terms of the integrity that came under scrutiny? Did the apology just conclude the matter?
For me, the apology and the happenings of yesterday portrays a difference between facts, right? Exuberance, hiding behind social media to put out, informations that may be factual, non-factual, half-truths, inaccurate, and also the role of the media, both new media and traditional media, in ensuring that we do not have a situation where we just put issues across and media picks it and does interesting story headlines around it just because we are looking for likes and hits and what have you.
Yeah.
I think that it portrays the need for responsible journalism, responsible participation in the social media space, but more importantly also responsible leadership on the side of duty bearers so that their actions, just like Speaker Babin said, will be what is courting the kind of respect and reputation that they are seeking, rather than, wanting to force it from the people.
Right. Please hold for me. We've been joined by lawyer Kofi Abochi, Dean of UPSA School of Law. And thank you so much, sir, for joining the conversation. Let me start by asking your initial reactions to what we saw yesterday. Oliver Bakavoma being hauled before the appointment committee, the apology, and then the speaker's posturing. Give me an initial reaction, and then we'll get incisive with the conversation. If you can hear me, please unmute, sir. Okay, while we try to reconnect with lawyer Kofi Abochi, he's Dean of UPSA School of Law. I'm hoping that he can bring into the conversation the legal part of all of this. Do I have Mr. Kofi Abochi on? Right. Lawyer, thank you for joining us. I was saying before we get incisive, what was your initial reaction to what we saw yesterday, the apology that Oliver Bakavoma rendered to the appointment committee? It doesn't appear I have lawyer Kofi Abochi with me, so let me just continue with you, Mr. Obeng. As and when we have lawyer Kofi Abochi, we'll bring him into the conversation. So the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Obeng, was saying that ideally it shouldn't be the appointment committee that take up that charge to haul before the committee Oliver Bakavoma. What did you make of that?
Well, I'm not too sure that was exactly what the Speaker of Parliament intended with it on the floor. I think he spoke about procedure generally by the Appointments Committee and perhaps not specific about this one. Why am I saying this? The Appointments Committee, like I said, was very clear in their letter to Mr. Vomawo that they were inviting him under the constitutional provision of a witness appearing before a parliamentary committee and not as someone who is being charged for contempt. Right? That's the point. The second point is that the current parliament, the 9th parliament, does not have yet a privileges and immunities committee. It has not been set up yet. Remember that the only committees that had been set up just to be able to fast track some of the initial processes are the Committee on Selection, which is responsible for establishing the various other committees, the Business Committee of Parliament, which is responsible for setting the agenda for every sitting day, and then the Appointments Committee because of His Excellency the President's nominees. So there is no committee privileges and immunities. And for a matter to be referred to Committee on Privileges and Immunities, it must be a matter that has been officially brought to the attention of Mr. Speaker, and he makes that referral based on his decision sitting in the chair. And so at this point, the committee had not made any complaint. They had heard something, and within the remit of their own committee, they've invited a witness. Let's be minded and remember that now that Parliament standing orders requires that parliamentary committees are supposed to be sitting in the open, no longer in camera, unless perhaps the situation demands an in-camera sitting. We'll be seeing a lot more of these, where witnesses will be invited, not necessarily because of what they have said, but like I said from the beginning, to provide expert advice to the committee, to provide various perspectives and what have you. And that is the route in which they came. But Mr. Speaker's comment about the procedure and what the committee may not be doing right, for me, there are many, many great merits to that. The first one is that this is a committee that the standing orders of Parliament is very specific, that they must carry the public along. In so doing, they must invite memoranda from the public on the various nominees, ask people to bring in issues if they have issues, advertise this in media platforms of national circulation, and the call for memoranda, and give some time for people to submit. The committee has failed woefully in doing these. And you see, what that provides then is that the committee considers that as members of Parliament and members of the committee, they've got all of the questions and all of the issues around these nominees that they can ask at a vetting without necessarily involving the general public. And that is a smack at public participation in parliamentary work and parliamentary business. That is one of the lows. The second point Mr. Speaker raised is the issue of the posturing, the public show of the committee, the kind of impression that the committee is giving to the general public about their work. And that's where Mr. Speaker referred to the fact that respect must be earned and not necessarily demanded. So when you sit as a committee and what everybody sees, especially remembering that not everybody understands parliamentary procedures and processes, practices, the way you understand them as members of Parliament. Right. I would watch a parliamentary sitting and see a lot of filibustering or a lot of heckling, and I will not have any problem with it because it's an everyday parliamentary thing, and that's the everyday processes that I get involved with. But any other person will see these on TV and will be wondering, what are these people doing? And so a committee like that must be mindful about the fact that the public is watching, must be mindful and very interested in monitoring its work, evaluating its work on a daily basis, and seeking continuous improvement, in that every new day must be an improvement from what they have done from the previous day. Right. We don't seem to mean that. And it appears that sometimes the committee does well, sometimes it does terribly, sometimes it does so abysmally, like how it chose to vet the Greater Accra Regional designate. Preposterous. And these are the kinds of things that
let me pause there for a second. Were they just tired, or what do you think happened there? What did we miss?
Well, I am unable to hold brief for them. I thought that they probably were tired and time was of the essence. But you see, a few days before, they are showing us what they could possibly do if they are hard pressed for time, that they could reschedule. In the case of the Minister for Gender, they reschedule to the next day, they apologize to the chiefs and what have you. But in this case, the official reasoning, so to speak, that they gave was to come live at the committee's hearing and tell all of us that because the nominee came with, a bipartisan entourage of supporters from both the NPP and NDC, and a number of revered chiefs, including past members of Parliament who have become chiefs and what have you, and that he has a very solid base behind him, he should go and would hear from the committee. Right. I think this is a reason that would fuel, unfortunately, the wrong perception that people have about Parliament and parliamentary committees. Right. And members of Parliament must know that the work that they do when the lights and cameras are on will be what will be used in judging the integrity and reputation of Parliament. For those of us who work with parliamentary committees when they sit in camera, we know the kinds of great, amazing work that they do when the lights and cameras are not there, when they know that their party boys and girls are not watching them. They do some amazing work, and we expect that most of that will be translated when the lights and cameras are there. But this whole art of wanting to get sound bites and wanting to be hailed, among their party people as the MP that, took people on or did something intriguing, does not positively favor the reputation of the Parliament of Ghana.
So talking about what you describe as everyday parliamentary happenings, right? The ones that maybe we don't get to see. And also discussing parliamentary procedures and what should have been done and what not. Let's not forget that the crux of the matter is that there was allegation of bribery, right? To the best of your knowledge, is it a fact? In fact, I saw a post from Daniel Yaudumelovo. He was talking about how a former chair revealed that after Parliament completes, the vetting processes, the Chief of Staff sends some payments to the committee members, and whether or not that constitutes bribery. To the best of your knowledge, first, is it a fact that some people may be paying monies to fast-track their approval processes? And this thing that the former Attorney General is talking about, Yaw is talking about, where do we draw the line between bribery and just compensating the committee for doing a good job or just for the work done?
First of all, it is a fact that Manasseh has written in his book that former First Deputy Speaker Joe Wise says there were some amounts paid to them as committees from the Flagstaff House as a way of facilitating their work when their work was over. Secondly, it's a fact that I was on PM Express last night with Mr. Domilevo and Mr. Joseph Osei-Wusu, and he repeated the same thing, Mr. Osei-Wusu, that Flagstaff House brought the money, but this time around, it was after the vettings were over as a way of appreciating the work that they had done. It is also a fact that the Speaker of Ghana's Parliament today, Speaker Babin, has actually, as the longest serving individual walking those corridors, indicated that bribes, there is corruption, so to speak, within the fold of Parliament. It is a fact that some members of Parliament themselves, including the current leader of government business, Mr. Mahama Yariga, and his colleagues, had in the past raised red flags, which caused a lot of chaos and commotion in this country. When you put all of these together, it provides a certain pattern. I have worked the Parliament of Ghana as a civil society activist, worked with different stakeholders. We've engaged parliamentary committees for years, well over a decade. I have never paid a bribe to members of parliament and members of parliamentary committees, or I have not had specific instances of people demanding, these things be paid before you met the parliamentary committee. So I may not have a personal knowledge,
right,
of these matters. But these are other issues that are in the public domain, which have not been denied, in fact, have been anchored by themselves as members of the public. It goes to fuel that public perception. And that is why I think that just like Speaker Babin, in his first term as Speaker, instituted a specific probe or research into how civil society can work effectively with Parliament, perhaps it is time that they initiated a process into why this public perception about members of Parliament and parliamentary committees and what can be done. Make the findings known to us. Use the findings to be able to initiate internal reforms. The standing orders currently of Parliament provides for an ethics commissioner to be appointed, to be able to oversee some of these things, including an ethics committee. How are they rolling out all of these anti-corruption measures that Parliament itself is looking at? And how are they making these rollouts, investigations and its findings public so that we all know the processes that they are undertaking? It is a fact that governance institutions the world over, particularly in this part of our world, are facing a lot of decline when it comes to public trust. And Parliament is no exception. It is a fact. It's not just a Ghana problem. But any institution that recognizes this and wants to get out of that does take deliberate steps, which gets communicated, carries the citizenry along for the citizenry to know that we are trying to change the narrative. And remember that the Ghanaian people really do observe, really do see these things when they see a political group or class that is changing the narrative or intending to change the narrative. They recognize it and they would walk and go along with you. And that's what Parliament needs to be doing at this point.
Just to drive home the importance of what you just said about, public trust in this arm of government, what are the dangers when citizens, although you say it's not just Ghana, it's everywhere in Africa, what are the dangers that we face or the dangers that our democracy faces when citizens lose trust in the integrity of Parliament and parliamentary committees?
Let me give you an example that would resonate with us because it just happened a few days ago. When citizens lose trust in something, they disrespect that thing. And when they disrespect that thing and want to treat it with disdain, it first probably starts in their closets, and then eventually they'll bring it out in the open. And so, yes, you would find people now within the precincts of Parliament disrespect members of Parliament on the precincts of Parliament and ask them who they think they are, because, in fact, they probably are not showing themselves as being what
I think the network got interrupted. Samuel Obeng, the Executive Director of Parliamentary Network of Africa, telling us or trying to drive home why it's important for Parliament to work to regain. Okay, he's back. Mr. Obeng, we lost you there for a second. Okay. He was just trying to reiterate why Parliament needs to do the work to regain trust of citizens and what dangers face our democracy if we don't take immediate, intentional and deliberate steps, words that he used, to, sort of recover the image in terms of the integrity of Parliament and parliamentary committees. And he was giving us an example of something that happened a few days ago. And I don't know if it was going to go to that engagement we saw between MFI Hardcastle and Frank Anodompré and the exchanges that happened. He talked about disrespect as a reason, or some of the things that could happen if we don't respect Parliament and the integrity of these parliamentary committees. Hopefully I have Samuel Obeng back with me. Yes, I do. I lost you there for a second.
Yes, that's just a simple example. Remember that we
lost the example. You mentioned something happened a few days ago, and I think I lost you from there.
So, yes, I was just making the point that, you see, when continuously citizens do not regard the institution of Parliament the way it needs to be regarded, it starts with disdain for the institution in their closets, and then eventually will translate into, public show of satisfaction and sometimes disrespect. In fact, there are some countries in this our continent, and Ghana is not there yet, and I pray we never get there, where members of Parliament, first of all, cannot easily walk around, in public places without security protection and things like that, because people are so angered that they come at. That is terrible, and we need not get there at all. We remember that there's been a time in this country where people got so upset with the institution of the police that people did some very terrible things like attacking police people in public and what have you. That's what, I mean, these things need not be condoned, but I'm just pointing to the facts.
Oh, another interruption there. That's not a good sign. But do I still have Mr. Obeng with me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Did you land on the point? Because I wanted to ask you. I mean, at the core of it, the media plays a big role in whether or not we respect these institutions, these arms of government or not. Is it the case that we are only being shown, or we are only showing the negative things, like, the disrespect, the allegations of bribery and all these fighting and throwing chairs, or Parliament is actually not doing the good enough that we are showing both the good and the bad? What's happening there? What role is the media really playing in whether or not we respect these institutions?
Well, the media's role is significant, and it can have a very negative impact on the work of Parliament if we continue to have some of the very irresponsible journalism that some media houses practice. Let's use another case in point, which is fresh, which we can all relate to. Oliver Barker-Vormawor posts something on his status, right? A social media home, right? Which we are told from his testimony yesterday, picks what he has said and gives it a different headline. This time around, introducing the chairman, introducing NDC and NDC MPs on a certain NPP bureau platform. That's how new media can twist things, and then it will go viral. Then a media house, properly so-called, an online platform, now picks that twisted headline and makes it its own headline as though it is news. That's how irresponsible things can get if we allow these kinds of things to fester. So media has a role to play, but Parliament also has a role to play in all of this. I think that members of Parliament must remember first and foremost that everything they are doing in Parliament now, majority of these things will now be in the public domain. How in the public domain it will be in the public domain because these things are live on TV, live on social media platforms, and now even worse of it, parliamentary committees are going to be open, and so we'll be watching. And the way you dress is the way you get addressed. You know, so how they put themselves out there as members of parliament would eventually show how, you know, the people of Ghana would address them and address the institution of parliament.
But why does it seem like we miss the good stuff? You mentioned that they do some fantastic work when the cameras are not on, when, you know, the party boys and girls are not watching. How is it that we miss most of that?
Well, we miss it because typical of politicians, and I recall the election petition hearing in the Supreme Court, I think after the 2012 elections, where, you know, it was jokingly said that, and for those who understand Ghana, when the lights are on and people are in their political elements, the gbishi in them, you know, begins to show up.
Right.
I think that happens a lot when the lights and cameras are on, unfortunately. Members of parliament must know. And you see, sometimes they think that the boisterous, the nature, the playing to the gallery nature, the theatrics is what Ghanaians are looking for. Let me give a classic example to show that is not it. Okay. One of the members of the minority side who has come up for praise during this vetting, I think most of you have mentioned it on various media platforms and it's been discussed on social media, is Honorable Patrick Yabuama.
Yes.
People are praising him for his calm demeanor, yet asking the relevant questions, yet posing the right things and ensuring that there is conversation that people can be able to relate to. If members of parliament think that Ghanaians will not see through these things and will not speak and reward these things, then they are truly, truly mistaken. We do see through these things. And so it must not be business as usual. And this is also advice to the new members of parliament, so that when your caucus is asking you that, you know, lift placards and march to we are all involved on the corridors of parliament and all of that, the media will not forget.
Yeah.
And your children and children's children and your constituents will refer you to these kinds of things and ask you whether these are the things that they asked you to come do in parliament.
So moving forward, as we wind down on the conversation, how can we help? We as media, you know, the media, and maybe I might extend to include civil society organizations, because sometimes they monitor and they hold these governments, arms of governments to book. So how can we help both media, civil society organizations, and regular citizens? How can we help?
On the side of the media, I mean, we must practice responsible journalism, good media practices. We must understand that as members of the Fourth Estate, we've got the power to make things great or make things terrible in this country. And various examples show to it. And so we must do our work and do it professionally. Those of us in civil society must perhaps also be supporting Parliament, not just calling them out, but also supporting them to be able to document some of the learnings and to be able to come up with ways in which they can do things better. At Parliamentary Network Africa, one of the things that we've been thinking, and perhaps at the tail end of this vetting process we may be doing, is how are we bringing various stakeholders together to be able to discuss how this first round of vettings had gone, you know, after all 60 ministers designated have been vetted, because this committee is going to be doing a lot of work, including other forms of nominations. And how do we come up with the lessons learned, all the good and positive things, all the terrible things, documents them into some form of a policy brief, submit to the Committee of Parliament so that it will inform their future work and future decision making. That's a way of evaluating, monitoring the work that Parliament does, and to be giving regular feedback to them to be able to improve their work. For us as members of the public, you know, we've been talking about misinformation, disinformation, deepfake, what have you. All of these things have a way of affecting our governance structure if we continue to peddle these things. So we must be circumspect in what and we must also be circumspect in what we expect from our members of parliament. If party people sit on the media platforms and always say that our MPs are not doing enough, as Chairman Ahiafo is behaving like he's so weak, he should put people, and it gets into the head of Chairman Ahiafo and he starts misbehaving, as chairman of the parliamentary committee, the ripple effect is that all of us will be affected. And so we must be gauged and measured by the kinds of expectation we have about political class so that we don't lead them into the temptations that they get led into.
We will open the phone lines and also hear from the public. But my final question to you would be, what about the appointment committee themselves? I mean, from the very beginning, the questions about the competence of the chairman, the composure of the minority in that committee during the vetting processes and all that. How can they also, while we, proceed with the vetting of the remaining ministers, today I think they are vetting about 8 people, how can they also sort of clean up the image that they have out there, that they are either incompetent, wasting our time? How can they also sort of change the narrative now? I think you muted.
Yes.
Yeah.
The appointments committee is actually one of the committees that Parliament, by its new standing orders, has elevated to a very, very serious level. And what do I mean by that? In the past, the Committee on Appointments was just, a chairman who has always been the first deputy speaker and about 25 other members of parliament. So there was no specific designation on who and who could join. In the new standing orders, of the 9 members who are supposed to be the statutory members of the appointments committee, 6 of them are direct leaders of parliament. First deputy speaker as chair, deputy majority leader as deputy vice chair, minority leader as ranking, and it goes on and on with the whips and all of that stated. There are only about 3 or so committees in parliament that gets that kind of status of putting leadership, packing leadership in there. One is the Business Committee of Parliament, which is responsible for setting the business or the agenda for the House every day, every week, and understandably so. You need the leaders to be able to set the agenda. One is the Committee on Selection, which is the committee responsible for selecting people to constitute the various committees, and you need leaders to be there. And then the Appointments Committee. So it's been elevated to a very, very high level, and they must play that role and give that kind of impression very, very well. Now, of the 11 members of the current appointment committee that was announced, 5 of them have been part of their
Okay, but we are going to open the phone lines, and while we reconnect with Samuel Obeng for his concluding remarks, we're opening the phone lines for you. Call me. Let me hear your thoughts on what's happening. What did you make of that apology yesterday? The conversation so far, do have your say. And I do want to find out from him before he goes, hopefully if we're able to reconnect with him, whether or he's back on. Please, you can conclude on that point for me and then we can wrap it up.
Just to conclude and say that it all means that the Appointments Committee has experience on its side, unlike what we are being told. It has leadership on its side, and they just have to make sure that they are doing a few important things. Number one, the meeting before the meeting must be important. Those things that they do in conclave and agreeing on the structures and procedures, when they agree on those things in conclave, they must be able to abide by it as men and women of integrity and make sure that they are not catching themselves by surprise, they're not surprising each other, because when they do that, they create a very bad impression of their committee to the public. They must be firm. They must know and understand the importance of the work and tasks that they are performing for and on behalf of the people of Ghana, and must know that all that they are doing is not in some private room. They may be sitting in committee room 2 and 3 in parliament, but the whole Ghana is watching them.
Right.
Millions people are watching them, and they must discharge themselves appropriately. When they do that, I do not think that the chairman is, I have worked with Mr. Ahiafo a few times on the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs as a civil society organization that has engaged that committee on various bills that have been under the consideration of the committee. An amazing legislator who understands his work, who takes his work very, very seriously. I've known Mr. Afenyo Markin and the work that he does, members of the committee, Mama Pat, Honorable Patrick Yabuama and co. They are great people in their individual rights. And maybe just like the Black Stars, if they would allow their collective individual skills to put together into a team that can play well, we will not miss out on the African Cup.
Talking about Afenyo Marking and sticking to agreements in conclave and all that, last question. Should they cap the number of questions that the ranking member can ask, a minister-designate during the vetting process? Because it seems it goes on and on and on, and nobody can stop him, and we're all just waiting and counting the hours till he finishes. Should we cap it? What do you think?
I think that the appointment committee's procedure, and for me, this would be one of the recommendations probably coming out of this first round of appointment committee vettings for them to consider going forward. There should be time allocation, right, for all members rather than number of questions. So just like done in Parliament during State of the Nation address, debate on the State of the Nation address, or debate on budgets after it's been presented and members have to go into the debate, they are able to cluster the conversation and say that if you are a relatively junior member of Parliament on the committee, or during plenary, you have 5 minutes to make your submissions. If you are a senior, a front bencher, you have 10 minutes. If you are in leadership, you have 15 minutes. And the same can apply for the committee. In 10, 15 minutes, if you can ask 2 million questions, go ahead and do that with the nominee. Stop the nominee when the nominee does not want to answer your question. That is probably whiling away your time. But there should be a timer that is pointing you to how much more time you've got. And that's what we see in other jurisdictions. So that we know that, okay, if you are in leadership, it's 15 minutes. If in 15 minutes, Mr. Markins can ask 110 questions, why not? If in 5 minutes, other members of the committee who are not statutory members can ask, and if in 10 minutes, those who are subject matter experts who are joining the committee can ask their number of relevant questions, why not?
Right.
We should be moving towards the capping of the time rather than capping the number of questions that members of Parliament have to ask. And that will make it even more orderly.
Samuel Obeng, thank you so much. He's Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Pleasure always.
But I have Cornelius online with me, calling from Bogoso. Cornelius, good morning. You're live on the AM show. What are your thoughts?
So, actually, can I speak on another umbrella issue or just what we are discussing?
Go ahead, share your thoughts. Let's have your say. It's connected.
Yeah. So, I think 2 days ago, another umbrella was wild. He's annoyed for being called silly. Why? Why must he be so annoyed? Look, some time ago, he insulted President Mahama. And he was asked to apologize, and he refused. He refused to apologize. He said he will never apologize. Now you've gone to provoke somebody, and the person has called you. He didn't call him silly person. He just mentioned something related to silliness. And hey, you with equal pie, you are annoyed. Does he think he's the only person, he's the only politician in Ghana? Get this message to him. We are not afraid of him. We are not afraid of him. He should get his act together.
Cornelius,
Muhammad, you refuse to apologize. Now somebody has called you silly and you are annoyed.
Cornelius, thank you so much for calling. But we have time for about 2 more calls, and then it will be a wrap. Have your say. We're talking about everything that happened in Parliament yesterday. Even the days before. If it's connected, you can call us. We have Ganiu from Savannah region. Ganiu, good morning. You're on the AM show.
Yeah, sweetie, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. What's on your mind, Ganiu?
This is Abdul Ganiu calling you from Mankaru, Savannah region.
Yes.
Mankaru constituency. I think the issue of Anadampre and MFA, I think it was a very big problem within the country. But sometimes we only see what's happening in public, but maybe indoors, we don't see anything. So what I will just say is that maybe what Anodonfred did, it was on public that he wants people to know that, oh, this is what the so-and-so have done to me. You get that? But nobody says that. Anodonfred says, oh, the woman insult him. That is why he said he should do this and that. No, he's only drawing the attention of Parliament to know what somebody did to him so that they can, if they can deal with that person, what is wrong with that? But the issue of Vemo, you see, our good friend has disappointed us. We thought that he's going to the committee to put evidence on them in front of the members of the committee and say that this is my evidence. But he disappointed with those who were thinking that the man really have evidence of what he was saying, knowing that it was just a popularity to make people to think that it's true. But as of now, these things are telling us that we, the people who are always on social media, we should know how we can put our things across the media, put things on our platform, so that it won't get you into a big problem like what our good friend was yesterday. All of us was very disappointed.
Right.
As such a person who always think that he have things ever right, he have every right to say what he thinks is good for the country, not knowing that it's always allegations at this level. But let's leave him to see how things goes for the country. But I wish the minority in Parliament well. What is the name?
Abdul, thank you so much for making your point and calling us. In fact, I was following the commentary on social media. Most people were, excited or were anxious to see how Oliver Barker-Vormawor was ascertained the veracity of his claims, whether or not he had evidence that, the appointment committee members were taking bribes. And so for him to show up and apologize, it's almost as if they were disappointed. But also on the issue about MFA Hardcastle versus Anodonpre, I think that yesterday I would say Ben and I were both saying that we wanted to see all angles before we made any comments. And, well, Ahmed Kumase calls me. I'll continue my thoughts after. Ahmed, calling us from Kumase. Good morning.
Yes, please. Yesterday I was very, very disappointed with what happened in Parliament, because we thought the guy is coming to produce evidence. As a lawyer, his stature, so we were expecting that he should come boldly and defend. But Charlie, I'm very, very disappointed. And secondly, I'm alarmed as a media house. You people are questioning why the minority leader is asking so many questions. That is their responsibility to ask the personnel who is coming for the vetting. But the media houses are rather complaining that he's asking so many questions. We should rather encourage him to ask them more tangible questions. But the media houses, I'm shocked this morning. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for calling. Right. So I just wanted to say that if you want to chastise MFA Hardcastle for what she did, go ahead. I mean, we're all entitled to opinions. But to say that because she's a woman, she shouldn't have done that, I don't see how that's an argument you can make. So when the men do it, it's okay. But when a woman does it, you take exception to it. Let's judge everyone because they're human beings in their capacity of whatever role they're playing in that place, rather than because she's a woman or she's a man. Emmanuel is calling us from the Upper East region. Emmanuel, good morning.
We lost everything. And
we
so
did.
I am saying, like, if we can be the prodigal son in the Bible, I think it will help Ghana. We should go back to our masters and tell them that we are sorry, we failed.
What are you talking about? Emmanuel, I can hear you. What are you talking about? You said we lost everything. What are you talking about? Oh, I think I just lost Emmanuel. I wanted to find out what exactly he's talking about when he said we've lost everything. But folks, thank you so much for calling. I don't have any other caller yet, so that will be a wrap for... Oh, we have one last caller. Randy. Randy, good morning. Where are you calling from? Randy, good morning. Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning. I'm doing well. I'm calling from Accra here.
Okay, Randy, have your say.
9 discussions so far.
Mm.
I just want to touch on Honorable Anodom Press situation and what transpired with the lady. To be frank, it's like we are not taking into cognizance the attitude of Anodom Press himself, Honorable, vis-a-vis his past utterances towards other people. You are called silly, and then you are crying foul. When you call other people by harsh words and you are asked to withdraw, you refuse to do so. You see, and we are entertaining this, and we are taking the woman's defense as if she was being rude or uncultured towards another prey. You provoke someone, and the person retaliates, even very, very calmly, and call you a silly person. And you are angry. And the whole parliament has chastised the lady as if she got it wrong. We can say she reacted on camera wrongly, but probably she may have also been provoked by the Honorable, because looking at other perspective of the conversation, we are told Anodom Pre had approached the other side to inform them they were not going to continue with the vetting. So it was at that particular time that the lady felt probably his antics over there was not proper, and probably may have degenerated. What happened between the two of them is nothing for the caliber of Anodom Pre to be complaining as if somebody had used unprintable words towards him. I feel the Honorable should be guided. His ways and his actions, how he talks to people. When he's giving a tip of that iceberg, he should be able to take it. He's a politician. And this thing about crucifying the lady, I feel, to be frank, it's been overstretched.
Right. Thank you so much for calling and sharing your thoughts with us. Well. So let's put a pin in it now. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation. You can still call in after the break. And then later on, we'll take you to Parliament because the vetting continues today. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. This is still the AM show. Thanks for your patience. And you know there's a hectic day ahead for the Appointments Committee of Parliament because they host as many as 8 ministers-designate, including Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, that's the Minister-designate for Foreign Affairs, and Sam Jatta-George, that's the Minister-designate for Communication. But let's take you live to Parliament now, where the action will be starting soon. But let's go to our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent first, Kweku Asante. Kweku, in anticipation for today's vetting, what's happening? What can you report?
Well, the proceeding was expected to start at 9 a.m. It's a very packed day. If you look at the schedule of the appointment committee, they've scheduled to vet 8 ministerial nominees today. That will be unprecedented because I think the highest the appointment committee has been able to do so far is around 5 in a day, but they're looking at doing a total of 8 today, starting at 8 o'clock a.m. But as you will see on your time now, it's a little over 9:20, and the vetting procedure hasn't started. The first on the list is Dr. Abdul Rashid Hassan Pelpo, the MP for Wa Central and the Minister-designate for the Ministry of Labour, Jobs and Employment. He is the first to be on this program, and it was supposed to start at 8 o'clock a.m. That hasn't started yet. Right after him will be Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, MP for Tamale Central, also the Minister-designate for Environment, Science and Technology. He was supposed to follow at 9. It hasn't started. And then there will be Samuel Nati George, MP for Ningo Pram, to come in at 10 o'clock. He is the Minister-designate for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation. There is also Kofi Adams, MP for Boem, the designate for sports and recreation, and then the committee expects to take a break around 12 noon and then return with Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, MP for North Tongue, the Minister-designate for Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. Now we know that regional integration has been hived off. There will also be Joseph Bukari Nipe, the MP for Saboba, and the Minister-designate for Transport. He is also expected to be vetted today. Isifu Seidu, Minister-designate for Minister of State, Climate Change and Sustainability, and then Mrs. Charity Gardner, the Minister-designate for Half Region. So 8 persons are really scheduled to be vetted today, and it's going to be a marathon one if you look at the program that has been put out. And a number of the members of parliament who sit on this committee, including friends of the committee, are already turning up, joining the table. What we are waiting for now is for the chairman of the committee, Bernard Ahiafo, the deputy chairman, George Kweku Reketagan, and the ranking member, Alexander Afenyomankin, the minority leader, as well as the other members, to also join in for these proceedings to start. If you look at the program they've outlined today, that goes very deep into the night, and so the expectation will be that it will start early enough for the proceedings to be able to conclude it in time. You can see behind me a number of traditional leaders from WA and its municipalities who've come in here to support Dr. Rashid Purple, who's already come in here. He came in here with his the entourage. They've taken their seats, expecting that proceedings will start at 8 o'clock a.m. as advertised. I should say that as 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, he came in here together with the chiefs to make themselves very comfortable for proceedings to start. So let's talk to some members of parliament and try and get some understanding of what they make of these proceedings. Dr. Rashid Purple is a former leader, served as a deputy leader, and so it is not expected that things will quite take some time. And so let me talk to some honorable members. Honorables, we are live on Journey. I'll take your views on the process today shortly. Let me start from you. You've known Dr. Purple for some time. You get a sense that he's work cut out for the ministry that John Dramani Mahama has nominated him to.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me use your medium once again to congratulate the Honorable Purple for being nominated as a Minister-designate for Labour, Jobs and Employment. Purple is a man who exudes humility. And you know that ministry is full of tension, labor, agitations and stuff. So I'm sure the president carefully chose him to be able to man that ministry. His humility, his prowess, he's an old, one of the oldest MPs in the chamber. He's been a minister before, and I have no doubt that he will deliver.
Honorable Suma, he also come from the same region as him, and you see traditional leaders who've all come in here to support him. What do you make of his nomination?
Oh, great. It's a very good nomination, and I thank the president for seeing that in Honorable Purple. Purple is affable, and he's a diplomat par excellence. The ministry he's going to, as my colleague just talked about, it requires someone with diplomatic skills, being able to negotiate, affable, being able to calm down tensions, and then negotiate between parties so that we can have a peaceful industrial atmosphere. And I think that he's one of the best persons that can do. He's a leader, and I think that he will bring his leadership skills on this job so that we can have a peaceful atmosphere for work to thrive in the country. He's from a well-known traditional area, the Wa Traditional Council. He's a prince. So I'm not too surprised to have a very good representation from the region, especially from the Wa, the overlord, and then his subjects here to support him.
Thank you very much, Honorables. And so the two MPs that I've just spoken to, their opinion is that he is well cut out for the job. I'll go to the other side and speak to some more members of parliament who have come in here from the region and from all over to support the Honorable Rashid Purple for this role. It's normally not expected to be a very lengthy one, given his experience, given who he is and what he does. And so we'll speak to some more. Let me speak to Dr. Titus Bayu, Dr. Professor Titus Bayu. Prof, you've been in the labor front, and the labor, some would say you cause a lot of problems. And so that is where the Honorable Rashid Purple is going. Yes. What do you make of his nomination, given that you know him and what he does?
All right. So I think he's the perfect man cut for the job.
The Labour Ministry requires someone who is moderate in actions, who is calm in disposition, who is willing to listen to both sides and is very fair. Honorable Pelpo was our caucus leader until his nomination. That's the caucus for Upper West Region. And he's held previous portfolios before. And he has a very calm demeanor. He is not someone who is agitated or easily angered. And you know, in the Labour front, we can really heckle you. He'll be working with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. He'll be handling various labour issues. And it needs a very calm demeanor. During my leadership at the Medical Association as General Secretary, we worked with Honorable Haruna Idrisu at some point as the Labour Minister, and that was the disposition he had. And he stirred the waters calmly and made sure that there were no unnecessary strikes and all of that. So it's a difficult area he's going, but I don't think there could have been a better person.
You know, when Labour asks for something, and they're going to negotiation, they are tough, they are demanding, some would say that is very calm disposition, maybe something that Labour may be taking advantage of in holding the government to account on certain promises that have been made, for instance, even by the erstwhile administration.
No, on the contrary, Labour will react forcefully if you treat them with disdain, with disrespect, discontent. So if Labour makes a demand of you and you are in a posture of, okay, what can we do about this? Let's look at the reality. Let's try and engage further. They are more accommodative. But when they make a demand of you and your immediate response is government cannot handle this, then you have a challenge. So people with calm demeanor are more better in that place. If you go with a combative attitude, then you have a very difficult task handling the demands of labor. I mean, human demands are insatiable. No one can meet them. But how you even communicate to the people can let them calm down and a bit understand you and press home. He is also firm. That's one thing I know about him. So though he's calm, he's firm. So it's not like he's going to give in to everything. And if you have been involved in labor negotiations, you realize that even the minister leading the negotiation doesn't have the final say. In almost all our labor negotiations, you need a minister of finance. Sometimes when we go for a meeting, we don't have the minister of finance, we are not happy. Yeah, we say no, then government is not properly represented because they hold the purse. We can all agree and then they will say the budget cannot support it and then we have issues. So I think he needs to collaborate more with the minister of finance. He will know what his budget allowances are, what is allowed. And before going for any negotiation, usually the government will have negotiated their own position, base position that they will not fall below. We will also go with our own position when I was in labor. So that's how the negotiations, and I'm sure he will be able to handle that.
Finally, before you take leave of us, in terms of this year, you look at the financing, the state of our economy. There's been no negotiation yet for an increase in pay yet. You've been in labor before, and at the risk of angering your colleagues that you left before you came here, what position do you think labor should take vis-a-vis government also, and so that we do not have a lot of labor challenges like we had in particular in 2024, so that there will be industrial harmony and then government will be able to go about it, and then maybe the tough stances will come in 2026?
So I think that in view of some of these challenges, we came to a position where it was required of labor to sit with government before the year ends. So we negotiate and put what I have into the budget for the succeeding year. So I am hopeful that some sort of engagement has taken place already in preparation for this current year. So it gives government some breathing space. But my biggest appeal to labor is for labor to recognize the times we are in. We are in a very difficult time. Our economy was in a junk status. Our currency wasn't doing well. We've gone through a very painful debt exchange program. Real incomes of people have lost value. So this is not lost on the side of government. So as much as government understands this and appreciates this and want to help labor, we also need labor to appreciate that this is the side that government is coming from. It's very difficult at this time. Look, we are coming on the promise of scrapping some taxes. That means that money coming into government kitty will be low. We are also going to uncap NHIA, the NHIF, that's the L, NHIL, the levy, and then review the capping and realignment. That means that the money coming to the central kitty becomes low. So this is making life bearable for the citizenry.
it necessarily then means that increasing money that require payment from the central kitty will be difficult. So Labour will have to understand government a bit and give it some room to operate. And we call on everybody to be productive so that with increased productivity, GDP will go up, more money will come in, then we can pay everybody. Yeah.
Professor Titus Bayo, the Member of Parliament for Lambushi, a former General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, just speaking to me that he's been in Labour, and so he knows what Labour talk and other things are about, giving us a sense of what the job for Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo is looking like, the kind of disposition he must take to be able to get Labour to not give him a very tough time when he assumes office. But a number of people have come in here. It's a very packed situation with a lot of traditional leaders from the Upper West region, particularly from the Wa municipality, like I told you about, who are here to support Abdul Rashid Pelpo. This was expected to start at 8 o'clock a.m. It's nearing 10 o'clock a.m. Proceedings haven't started. The chairman and the core members of the committee are still yet to take their seats, and then when they do, proceedings is expected to be under. We have no indication exactly what is happening, for which reason they are not here as advertised, but we expect that by 10 o'clock a.m. today, proceedings would have started. Like I told you also earlier, the committee is looking to vet 8 nominees, and that will be historic if they're able to do so. But it has some very heavy weights on the committee, some persons that the vetting process may very well drag for, just like we saw with Dr. Edward Kofi Omaneboma for defense. There is Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, and if you listen to the chatters in Parliament and you listen to the indication, you have every sense that that particular vetting may very well drag, especially when it's time for the minority leader to question the nominee for foreign affairs. But Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa is coming in also prepared to answer the questions that may be posed to him. Again, there is also Samuel Nate George, a very, also sometimes you can describe him as a polarizing figure, divides opinion on both the NDC and NPP side. Minister-designate for communications, he's also expected to be vetted today. Those 2 persons may well shoot in terms of the time that the committee has said to vet. That may well drag, and so that is what we are looking at. But that is all in the hands of the committee. And Suti Abuchi, any moment from now, when the chairman and his members take their seat and the process starts, we'll expect that some of these matters will be gone into, perhaps an explanation as to why a process expected to start at 8 o'clock a.m. hasn't started nearing 10 o'clock, and how the committee intends to manage the time. Given that tomorrow is Friday, they have about 6-7 more ministers to vet before they can say that they finished vetting all the 42 substantive ministerial nominees that John Dramani Mahama have made, and then perhaps the president will take a cue and then start the nomination of deputy ministers. So, Situ Abochi, that is the situation in the appointment committee here in Parliament.
It's a packed situation, and we also know that some deliberate steps have been taken to reduce the number of people in that room. Has that taken effect? We saw some barricades and all that on social media. Has the numbers reduced? As in the people who can sit in a room there and witness the proceedings?
Well, yes. Yesterday and 2 days ago, the appointment committee announced new modalities. There were barricades right at the entrance of the vetting committee building to limit the number of people who will come in, and so that has been there. They also announced that they're going to allow 10 guests per nominee, but that quite hasn't worked. If you see behind me, right ahead of me, the number of traditional leaders and persons coming in from the Upper West region to support Rashid Pelpo, way above 10. That will be very difficult to implement, especially with MPs coming in with traditional leaders, family members, friends, party stalwarts, and other persons who come in here to support the nominees. It is next to impossible to be able to keep that in check and get that. But it is a much more improved situation than we've seen in the last few days, because in the last few days you would also see persons standing in the vetting committee room because the place was choked, it was packed, there were no seats for them to take, and so they were standing, and it caused a little bit of some drama and consternation in the committee room. But because of these new modalities, the security, rigorous security checks right at the entrance, it has meant that very few people are allowed in, but the 10 is obviously exceeded. More people are coming in, and they are just about exceeding the 10 number, but it's not as bad as it used to be in the last few days when the place was jam-packed, choked with so many people standing.
So much, and that's when the vetting actually starts. We'll come to you and for the details. Thank you so much. Well, our parliamentary affairs correspondent there, Kweku Asante, giving us some details in preparation for today's vetting. They are preparing to vet about 8 people, and he says that if they're able to do it, it will be record-breaking. But before we go to AM business, let's celebrate Nanajua. Happy birthday, Nanajua. May God grant you all your heart's desires and satisfy you with long life. This is coming from Nana Sewa, a.k.a. International. Now, today on AM Business, Chief Executive Officer of Opportunity International, that's the Savings and Loans, and former board chair of the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies, Kwame Owusu-Boateng, has been reacting to the newly approved Finance Minister, Dr. Keselato Forson. And he was speaking to Joy Business, and he expressed confidence in him and called on him to swiftly address challenges affecting the economy. Let's take a look at AM Business now.
Cost of money is high, the cost of delivering the credit to the customer. When I say cost of money, how you assess your funding. If you are assessing loans from local sources or even from international lenders, and the conditions are not favorable, the rates are not favorable, then definitely, as you pass it on as loans, it's going to be at a high rate. Some institutions actually even source foreign denominated currency loans. And if you are using CD to pay back these loans, it becomes very expensive. So it's a whole lot of things. Even the area of risk management is important for the cost of credit. If your risk management framework is robust and you're able to eliminate risk and therefore avoid losses from loans and operational losses, it doesn't affect you in a very negative way in terms of how the customers are able to access funding. So it's a whole ecosystem, training and capacity of practitioners, of the staff, field staff, that brings out across the efficiency that is required. If they're efficient and they can do more loans within a shorter time with less resources, the cost of doing the credit is also lower. So it's a whole a big space, but you have to attack it in different pieces and in different segments, but the whole ecosystem has to work. The government has a role to play in making sure that the economics are right. If the economics are right, the people will be happy because institutions operate at a less cost and they can pass the benefit back to the customers.
Talking about government, on Sunday, President Mahama made mention of the fact that he'll be incentivizing businesses, which of course include the savings and loans space. What do you make of such, comments? Basically.
I think there are positive comments at the start for the government and President, His Excellency President Mahama. We look forward to these suggestions and issues that were captured, or policies that were captured in manifestos, translating into actual policies. Once those are done, you talked about digitalization and how it's going to impact. If, for instance, e-levy is gone, the tax component is gone, it stimulates transactions on the mobile platforms, which of course creates efficiencies for the customers and also the institutions. So we look forward to all these policies coming into fruition.
Now, let me take you to your regulator once again. We recently engaged the governor of the Bank of Ghana, and he made mention of the fact that there was a need for you being operating within this space for, I should guess, 20 years and over. What do you make of such comments coming from your regulator?
I wouldn't want to be in the space of the governor because they have a better view of the sector than us, the players. It's what when we come together, what we're able to see is what is available to us. They, of course, as regulators, have deeper insight. So I wouldn't want to go into that conversation. But then we all want to see a more solid and sound sector within the savings and loans, because I think cumulatively we're serving close to about 8 million customers across the country. If you put all our branches together, even staff strength and all. So if the sector is able to stand on its feet very well, it's not to the benefit of the whole country. And that's where we will work collaboratively with the regulators to ensure that a few institutions that have problems, there should be sustainable ways of managing them. Definitely we have, as a country, learned lessons from the banking sector cleanup. And I believe that will guide the regulator and us, the players, in agreeing the best sustainable way to move forward.
Should the regulator relook at the capital adequacy ratio?
Not necessarily a relook at the capital adequacy ratio. I think the core issue is how the institutions that have inadequate capital can have capital. Because capital crunch really was visible in this country. Insurance companies increased their minimum capital requirements, savings and loans companies haven't seen an increase. Microfinance companies saw an increase, finance houses saw an increase and all. So, and coming at the back of the economic conditions that we went through, where was capital going to flow into the sector to capitalize the institutions that are undercapitalized? So I think they may decide to increase the capital adequacy ratio, but if the institutions don't have access to capital to run their operations, they will still be challenged. So I believe that the core of the issue is how do we resuscitate the institutions that have inadequate liquidity to finance their operations and inadequate capital to also be able to undertake the projects or the investment that they want to undertake.
Let me pick your thoughts on the new finance minister, Dr. Kaseo Atufosin. What do you make of his appointment?
He's been in the ministry before as former deputy minister, and also in opposition he was a key figure for the opposition in challenging the government in power then. So he really understands the space, and we believe that his appreciation of the dynamics of what should happen for the economic indicators to improve is high. So with that, I have very high expectations of his input and his abilities and that of the ministry. And we believe that when that happens, it gets better for all of us.
Let's talk about your company, Opportunity International Savings and Loans. 2025, what should we expect from you guys when it comes to corporate governance breaches and all of that? What should you expect?
Last year, we climaxed our 20th anniversary celebration. Having been in operation for the past 20 years, we've built a very significant operation, over 670,000 depositors across 10 of the 16 regions of the country. There are plans to add a few more regions, starting from this year, where we plan to be in Volta region for the first time with a physical branch. We're looking at upcountry, Upper East, Upper West, Northeast as well, where we've done feasibility studies to also expand our footprint into those areas. What we're looking forward to do in 2025 is to combine our traditional model with technology as much as possible. We've already started some of the work, but it's going to climax this year, probably by the end of the first quarter, and create more increased accessibility for our customers, create greater levels of efficiency where we can penetrate into rural communities, not necessarily because we have a physical presence, but with the basic infrastructure that we have, we can have more transactions coming through and customers accessing us using technology as much as possible. From a governance perspective, we built a very robust governance framework. Our risk management framework is very solid. We never have any issues with the regulator. We are one of the very well-respected brands from the regulator's perspective. So we want to keep that in mind and also use that as a pedestal to improve on our governance framework and our risk management framework. And we believe that with all the investment that we have made in technology, we're going to see some more growth.
Grateful, Mr. Boateng. So we've been speaking about the savings and loans sector, its growth prospect, challenges as well, and how best we can deal with some of these challenges affecting the sector. My name is James Ishen. Enjoy business.
This is still the AM show on Joy News. Don't forget that we are eagerly waiting for the appointment committee to begin vetting of about 8 nominees. It was advertised to start around 8 a.m., but as we speak, they haven't started yet. We went to Parliament and we saw that some people have seated traditional leaders there to support. Everything seems set, except it's just the absence of the chairman and the ranking member, I think, of the committee. But once they take their seats, the vetting process will begin. In the meantime, we want to bring you back one of our stories from Climate Focus, and then we'll come back and see if maybe Parliament has started, the vetting has started, and we'll take it off from there. But now let's go for Climate Focus.
So what happens is the panel brings the power, the DC power, to these inverters. These inverters, what happens is convert the DC power into AC power and also supply these batteries for storage purposes. So in case there are cloudy conditions or during the night, the battery takes over. Then also feeds the rest to the output, which is the thresher machine that is going to operate, be operated.
The solar-powered thresher has replaced the diesel-run model, utilizing clean energy to thresh crops while promoting sustainable, climate-friendly, renewable energy use and reducing operational cost. It aims to facilitate the transition from fossil fuels to cleaner energy sources for threshing and alleviate the labor-intensive task associated with diesel-powered threshers. This innovation will help farmers more efficiently prepare their produce for market. Aramani Tewia from E-Powers Construction explains how the solar energy is captured and stored for use.
This system has been built intelligently in order to cut when there is an overvoltage, undervoltage, and also other faults that the system is able to detect whenever there is a challenge. These batteries you see here are highly intelligent battery that has a Wi-Fi connected port to the inverter, which makes it possible for them to communicate. In case there is battery or one of the batteries is falling, one of the battery is able to give its power, some of its power to other battery so that they can all work equally. Like you can see, these batteries are connected, they are parallelly connected here. That makes it very unique and also makes it very good in terms of working hand in hand with the inverters.
The system will last between 20 and 30 years of usage.
This system is built to last for about 6 hours every day. That can be able to help these farmers in order to thresh their maize, their millet, their sorghum, and other cereals they currently farm over here. These batteries is also, as I stated, helping them in order to actually save them power so that during the night and cloudy condition, they can be able to use it. This system will last for the next 20 to 30 years for them to use.
The solar-powered thresher will be managed by the Post-Redial Management Committee to ensure that beneficiaries of the project continue to benefit from the gains of the project. The Redial Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, Faustina Kovo, says the introduction of the solar system is part of the collective efforts of sustainable agriculture and climate action.
The REDA project introducing the thresher is aimed at contributing to lower emissions. As we are all aware, emissions is on the rise, and one of the key contributors is fossil fuel. And so our existing thresher, although it's delivering the results we want it to deliver, uses fossil fuel, which is a contributor to climate emissions. And so the introduction of the solar is to harness the benefits of green energy, which would ensure that the production and the threshing services are done without emissions.
Faustina also states that the Redial project has been instrumental in introducing innovative solutions for smallholder farmers.
We've also trained farmers across our project zones on climate-smart agriculture, including organic compost, organic fertilizer production, how to adopt sustainable land management practices, reduce land clearing, restore their lands, and also adopt methods like mulching that will ensure that emission and then soil nutrients are harnessed and emission is reduced.
Ejuraseche Dumasi Municipal Crop Officer Anthony Koye says the thresher came at the right time.
So we need to emphasize the fact that there is presently a climate change which brings adverse effects on the crop production. And so with the advent of this solar-powered thresher, it is going to play down the adverse effects of the climate change on food production in the district. And so the appeal is that if it could be replicated in other districts or regions, it will go a long way in fighting the climate change that we are all seeking to bring down to help the agricultural production.
Farmers in Ejura are encouraged to make the most of the technology, not only improving their income levels, but also adapting climate-smart and eco-friendly farming practices. Douglas Insia is one of the farmers.
Fidia etutu ebura ondi aba. Ankane no. Na yusu tractor. Tractor no. Afi na akwape diesel. Afi na ewisi ebeba efa oso a etimi ma oyare ba foforo ya ondi aba etimi yusu solar ede tutu eburo no kama no ye no ebeboa ama sese no how kese a na enya free eburo tutu no mu yare a ebenya free mu emra ewisi ye so tractor afi na akwape tractor ni nyina no ese
Under the management of the Post-Redial Management Committee, the solar-powered thresher will be properly maintained to ensure it continues to benefit farmers in the area for years to come. Madam Aisha Salifu is the head of the committee.
Hold them in trust for the exclusive benefit of smallholders farmers in the municipality. I recognize and respect the oversight rules of the Ejura State Municipal Assembly over the PRMC, ensuring accountability, transparency, and effective management of this asset. I assume full responsibility to ensure these assets and manage, maintain, and utilize to improve the livelihood of local farmers.
The solar-powered thresher represents a major step forward in the fight against climate change to promote cleaner energy and sustainable farming practices that will benefit farmers and the environment for generations to come. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Climate Focus is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, Bridging Gaps for Positive Youth Development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
That's it for Climate Focus, but it appears the appointment committee has not started vetting yet, but that will be our time for the AM show, and so we're handing you over to the Joy News desk team. They'll be taking over, and hopefully that vetting process will start shortly. I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I did this with Benjamin Akakpo. Please stay and enjoy the rest of our programs.